Greetings, Standard Nerds. This is Christopher McClanahan at DeeplyDapper.com.
This is Tom Catamonte of Third Rail Design Lab.
And it's time to...
Release the Robot-Kraken!
Hey there, pod people. Welcome to the May episode of Robot-Kraken, episode 31. This month on Robot-Kraken, we appease the beast with discussion of drinking, Marvel stuff like Iron Fist and other madness. We discuss the sci-fi television program The EXPANSE, and that features a special guest star on the episode. Or at least we think he's a star. You'll think he's a star after you listen. Enjoy, everyone. Welcome to May with Robot-Kraken.
Dick, 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 dick.
Dick, 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 dick. Tom does that every time, and most of the time, he does it before I finish the intro, and editing it is a bitch.
You put it in, usually. I hear it in the background.
It's because it's the only, there's like no clean cut on it. I'm like, and it's time to...
Well, nothing beats last time when you inserted my dying robot sounds into the closing credits.
I had to do that. There was no way I could not have that posted for posterity, or posterior, something like that.
I don't want to hear about your prostate at all.
Yeah,
you're younger than me, but
everyone's younger than you, Tom.
Oh no! But also in the detailed timestamps from last time, I did not note when there was a random cat, I think, that was bothering you.
Probably.
If there was no cat, then we have a problem.
It's often not a cat.
So we have a special guest.
We do. This is our May episode of Robot-Kraken, and
That's
we
right.
have our first guest on.
So this will be episode 31.
Ish.
31. Episode 31 of Robot-Kraken. We got 31 in before we had completely run out of content and needed a guest.
Yes. And because they stopped making all television and movies.
Yes.
So who do we have with us, Tom?
So this is Mr. Blake Simmons, a pal of mine. Blake, say hello.
hello.
That's great.
That's the extent of his contribution, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Nice dynamic. Let's not kid ourselves. So Blake, we've known each other a little while, right?
Just a little bit. I think like a couple months.
A couple months plus, almost
14 years.
14 years.
Mm-hmm.
Not tired of me yet.
Not even close.
So, Mr. Blake is we're peas in a pod, not at all because he's a scientist and genius and super swell guy that everybody loves, none of which really apply to me, but because we have similar...
I would say it probably doesn't apply to any of us right now.
Are you in trouble again?
I'm always in trouble.
Okay. But but we're similar standard nerds, right? We like a lot of the same stuff, so it's fun to bullshit about that when we get together.
Indeed. Looking forward to this journey through time and space and content with the two of you.
Yeah,
it's generally a downward spiral, but
yeah, usually, yeah. Wait until you hear the outtakes from last month.
Did you edit out a chunk and then?
Dude, I've legit not even touched the drunken John Wick conversation yet.
Oh, I love it. So Blake,
my recommendation is just let it ride. Don't even touch it. Just let it go.
Right.
If you love something, set it free.
If you'd like to see editing on Robot-Kraken, support our Patreon.
/ Deeply Dapper.
Yes.
Well, so we make refreshing cocktails while we record, and then generally speaking, we pace it pretty well, and we've each of us slipped a little bit onto the dark side once or twice, but this last time, I made a grievous error in my concoction and decided to run with it, figuring, well, it's just one glass, but it was one glass after riding 20 miles, not eating a lot, and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
You short of sleep, and it hit me, and it wasn't a disaster on my body or anything. It's not like I was hungover the next day. But it was enough that I was a real loose unit while we were recording, which was super fun. Super fun, sort of. But anyway,
I've heard that about you several times, Thom. You crafty sailor, you.
Wait a minute. Generally speaking, if I'm a loose unit in person, you're looser. So,
I'm a full-fledged train wreck. That's how it goes.
And Kris, you're sort of a garbage fire. So between the three of us,
I really am. Yeah. We're a post-apocalyptic movie right here.
I do remember one ill-fated night when the three of us met up at the Utah Saloon after a baseball game, I do believe.
Oh, that's right.
I do remember there's photographic evidence of much mayhem and shenanigans.
I'm surprised any of us remember anything about that night, honestly.
Oh no, I've got a photographic camera.
Which kind? Well, you've reminded me of it now. So there.
So what are you guys drinking? We have this this segment called "Sucking the Monkey." After all,
not that.
Well, so sucking the monkey, Blake, you know this.
Mm-hmm.
From every episode that you've slavishly listened to on all of your world travels.
I will say I have listened to well over 15 of your podcasts, gentlemen.
Oh my!
And you still came on. That's awesome.
Through the iTunes interface. I haven't listened to the past three, the most recent three, but now you piqued my curiosity.
Through the what phase now?
I haven't listened to the past three.
Oh, okay.
So now you piqued my curiosity on.
Oh yes, we switched to a monthly format. So whatever sessions we record during the month, Kris, with all of his copious free time, smushes them all together, waves his hands, and then makes a mega recording. So we found we couldn't record consistently enough on a weekly or bi-weekly basis because of our various schedule issues, and so we decided, for as little or as much as we can get in a month, put a mega episode out at the end, and it's a little bit more consistent, and it's also a bigger chunk because we both like long podcasts. Why not?
Yeah.
Kind of whittle your way through them. So that's what we've been doing.
Or just fall asleep to them.
Yeah, sure.
Pretend like you listened to the whole thing.
The dulcet tones. Yeah. So the sucking the monkey back in piratey days, rum, alcohol forbidden on the ship, so they would smuggle the alcohol aboard on coconuts, and then they would drink the...
Actually, in coconuts. On coconuts was less effective.
You're right. It's a balancing act.
Just sucking it off of that rough skin on the outside.
That's a mini boss level.
That's licking the coconuts, and that became a completely different activity on the boat.
Totally different.
Equally hairy on the outside, but...
Totally muty, yeah. So, anyway, so Blake, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking Lost Republic bourbon.
Ooh.
Nice. Cut with bourbon.
With a bourbon ice cube.
That's not it. Bourbon straight up with the bourbon back.
Yeah, that sounds delicious.
That does sound delicious.
How about you?
Kris, you'll never guess that I'm drinking a certain craft vodka.
Are you drinking Tito's vodka again?
I am. I was just listening to, in a narcissistic way, one of our recordings from a couple of times ago where you were insisting that it should have been tequila based on his name, and I called you a racist.
It's not an untrue fact. No.
So,
when it comes to vodka and tequila, anyway.
So I made a delicious concoction tonight with Tito's vodka and pure pineapple nectar and some pineapple chunks. Some people with limited imagination would just say that's some sort of basic generic tropical cocktail. I'm going to call it the Atoll of Tole. What should I say? Atoll? An Atoll something. It's delicious.
Whatever you do, don't stop.
I wanted to use the word Atoll and Tole in the same drink name.
Atoll.
I'm drinking a Dr. Pepper mixed with Kraken rum, so I'm having a Doc Ock.
A Doc Ock, that's right. Yes.
And
Atoll.
It's not extremely exciting, but it is Kraken rum, so it's approved. Whether you like it or not, it's approved.
It's approved. Brace for impact.
Yes.
An Atoll totalitarian.
Give it up, Tom. Just drink some more. I'm sure
it's
it'll come to
delicious
you.
in every way.
How long you been drinking your a-hole?
7 minutes.
Do you use a straw with your a-hole?
Depends on the receptacle, let me tell you.
How wide an opening is that made in?
This has gone right off the rails. Right off the plank, I guess.
Walk the plank.
So at this moment in time, we're all behind on our viewing, right? Of all the sweet stuff.
Yes, everything. There's just so much good product and content out right now. It's just ridiculous.
Except for Iron Fist.
Okay. Hold on now. First of all, what did I tell you about calling it content and product? I mean, what is this Madison Avenue?
Isn't it?
This is sweet.
Don't you tell me my purse line's not going to be accepted here on Robot-Kraken.
They toiled on these projects to make the best genre material that we could possibly ask for, including Iron Fist. Iron Fist was the best possible. It's really not.
No, it's not. No.
It has its pluses, and couple of them aren't Rosario Dawson.
I'm on episode 4, and I got to say the best thing about it is the opening credits.
Holy crap! We were just saying previously that. Well, if that's the case, because we think that the opening credits are just a total hot mess. That's not a good sign.
I can't stand those opening credits.
I find them to be the best thing about the show.
Oh,
maybe closing credits. Maybe I should rephrase that.
Our mutual friend Lung calls it Claire Temple season 5, which I love.
Nice.
I finished the series. Kris, did you get to the end?
No, I'm still on episode 5, I think. 5 or 6. I'm not very far in. I've had zero time to watch anything. That's why I'm going to have to bow out during your guys' conversation of The Expanse, because I'm 10 or 12 episodes behind you guys, so...
No.
I know, I suck.
I burned through Iron Fist just because I wanted to get to the end without something being spoiled. Spoiler
Is there
alert,
anything to spoil?
Yeah, spoiler alert, there's nothing to spoil. They don't do anything. But also...
You treated that show like a bad burrito, man. You just had to work it through your system and get it out.
I really did. I just had to work through the cramps on 1-hour intervals. But kind of like what we talked about, Kris, last time, if you could just distill this down to a bunch of cutscenes of Colleen Wing and Claire Temple in candlelight or whatever, or working out, it'd be fine.
The Wing Temple.
I see what you did. That's a move. That's a sugar DVD search if there ever was one.
Wow, that's very true.
Is there a sugar DVD anymore, Tom?
I don't even know.
Has your reference become obscure?
I don't even know if it ever existed. Lung always referenced that on every other thing, and I don't even know. So, but yeah, I watched to the end, and I don't know. I still like it better than any of the, broadcast TV stuff, with the exception of some of the Fox stuff like Fringe and a few others. I mean,
wait, be careful. So when you say broadcast stuff, you're saying the major networks, because I would say Expanse blows that thing into a different lunar orbit.
Right, but that's but that's
okay.
That's Sci-Fi Channel.
I would like to point out the Legions on FX as well.
Yes. Right. But again, I'm talking basic broadcast. I'm saying the lion's share of mediocre superhero television has been on ABC and WB.
I will give you that Iron Fist is better than Powerless or Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place.
Well, and I think...
Or Aging Rectal Fire. Yes, that's great.
That's right. I feel like it's better... That's weird. So I feel like it's better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think it's better than Arrow.
Uh-oh.
You don't think it's better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I think out of everything that Marvel has produced, this is the thing that is most heinous to the universe.
Wow.
And that includes the Punisher movie.
Which of the Punisher movies is your least best favorite of those?
I don't know. I have to say the most recent version of the Punisher is probably my least favorite, but
With Nixon playing Punisher?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He's an interesting guy, right? I don't feel like I've seen him in many things, and I didn't see that movie. I just saw it.
You just stated the obvious about there's a reason why that is the case.
But isn't he?
And we affirmed it, saw it, on the big screen. It was great.
What was Punisher? I'm gonna
Ray Stevenson is, I think, who you're talking about.
What is his name? Stevenson.
Ray Stevenson.
Lance or something, right?
Ray Stevenson, right?
Ray Stevenson. He was the one who played Juggernaut on the X-Men disaster.
No, that was Vinnie Jones.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Yep.
No, he's Volstagg in the Thor movies.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
He's Australian actor number 6, right?
Is he Australian?
No, he was born in Northern Ireland.
Oh.
Irish actor number 4.
He's Irish actor number 73, dude. There's a lot of Irish actors.
Yeah. So here we go. So there's 3 actors that played Punisher, right? So there's Dolph Lundgren, which I still think is the best, and then you got Thomas Jane, which has, the tie into what we're going to be talking about later, and then Ray Stevenson. And so you got a Swedish, American, and British. So you're just, working your way down.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, I think the television or the Netflix version of him has been the best so far.
Oh yeah, I actually quite liked it. But the biggest problem, I think across all of the Netflix stuff has been pacing. Right? Mm-hmm. They've had trouble figuring out how to stretch their story based on these larger commitments, which is unusual given that they are signing up for a certain range of episodes, writing them all in advance, and then producing them all at once like a movie. So you would think, unlike broadcast television where they have to just fill slots and they're just writing it every week on the fly, you'd think that they would have the ability to really pace it out and build a complete arc and, be organized about it. But with after Daredevil season 1, which I think also had that new car smell to it,
right?
I think that each of their shows afterwards started to suffer from slightly different creative teams, and they don't really know how. They know it's supposed to have that Barton Fink feeling, but they don't know exactly how to get there, and they pace funny. And one of the things I heard recently on the Weekly Planet podcast, they mentioned that all the other Netflix series start strong, lag in the middle, and then try to finish fairly strong. This one starts weak and then sort of builds. So the better stuff is towards the latter half as opposed to having a middle lag. And I don't know. It will be interesting to see if you continue, if you think that's true. Because I feel like it got uneven as it went on. I felt it had highs and lows.
Well, that's probably true when I watch the whole thing, and I will. But to me, it's just, I can't believe how bad the filming and the editing is, especially in the fight scenes, compared to especially like Daredevil. I mean, just come on. The background story is pathetic, to say the least. And then this moral dilemma that he's facing that seems to be kind of a made-up malaise that anybody with a sack could get their way out of, and they just don't do it. And the crossover characters, for the first time, are just not compelling. And I think the actor they cast for the lead is just a complete misfire, a complete mishit.
Well, so Finn Jones does play sodomized and nearly dead very well on Game of Thrones.
I feel like the whole route that they took with this series in deciding to make him dealing with his own problems instead of trying to save somebody else is one of the worst missteps you can make in a superhero show. You can't do a television series about somebody trying to get his company back and it to be compelling viewing for a superhero.
I feel like we've talked about on other projects, you try to imagine the pitch room, right? What how when you see the finished product and it's confused, it had to start with something better. This is not the type of schlock that some of the other networks have, where they just threw stuff against the wall and whatever seemed to get some traction, they just kept going with it. I mean, they had a point when they started the series, but it was terribly executed, I think, from what their vision was or what they originally thought it was going to be. When I watched this, I think that their premise was he's supposed to be the best martial artist in the Marvel universe.
Right.
Yeah.
Excluding, possibly eclipsing Shang-Chi, if
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
No, and he's not yet in the MCU. But at the time that he was brought into the Marvel Universe, and there was very specific marketing reasons why he is this, this little white kid that went to Kunlun and came back and is now this ambassador, because they just want to sell twice as many Kung Fu comics, right? That was all it was. Very simple. But in the MCU, that component doesn't already exist. So this is the only guy now. And so I feel like they started out saying, well, okay, he's the best there is at what he does, and that's going to be boring because no one likes a Mary Sue that's impossible to beat. So we need to depower him. So we've got to give him personal conflict that will weaken his concentration and his chi, and we have to put him in position. We have to depower him so that he can't use his iron fist all the time, and that he can't focus and be that supreme martial artist, so that we can pitch him against these other types of people without it being an entirely one-sided attack. However, it completely fails because you never buy for an instant that he is the master that he's supposed to be.
No, I mean, to me, I would take Stephen Strange over him in a hand-to-hand fight right now.
With or without the cape?
Without the cape, without the cloak. It's he would totally kick his ass.
But from a production standpoint, how do they make this one have the worst choreography though?
They had to try. They had to set out to decide to fail.
They hired somebody that has no background in action films, I think. The scenes are just really super pedestrian is the biggest problem with them.
He said in interviews that in many of his fight scenes, the choreographer came up and said, this is what we're going to do about 15 minutes before they filmed. And if that's true, it's a production disaster. And if that's not true, that's a pathetic excuse. I think he has a lot of the Tai Chi type stuff. I think he handles it well. Mm-hmm. And there are times when he hits his marks and he looks good. But the problem is, even when he's doing a good job, the way it's shot, there's poor camera angles, and it's not composed in a way that makes it interesting. You can make a mediocre fight look really cool if you try. We've seen that a lot in movies, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This
is the opposite of that. So there are some standouts, but I don't think we can talk about any of them in front of. Well, I can't talk about either of them with you guys. There'll be some that are actually like hints of what this could have been that you'll see. But
I think it's so sad that the other point is that everybody's saying, well, gosh, maybe the Defenders can pull this out, or the emergence of the Inhumans can pull this out, and that's still such a far stretch from where this is taking place in the plot line development. At least as far as I've seen it, it's a sad, and it's horrible to see Carrie Ann Moss involved with something so awful.
Carrie Ann Moss and her stilettos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and it all goes back to Finn Jones. There are a lot of Caucasian actors that could have brought that gravitas that I was saying last time that I wanted him to have. I don't mind if you whittle away or undermine his confidence in himself and therefore weaken his power, because he's got that. They basically painted him into the Green Lantern corner, right?
Right.
If he can imagine that he's, the one, then he's the one, right?
You can't, and therefore he's not.
Yeah, right. Well, there are a lot of actors that could have pulled this off, and I don't think he is it.
Yeah, like anybody from Dawson's Creek.
Yes. Vanderbeek in his forehead.
Yeah. Oh, Vanderbeek. I mean, Doogie Howser would have been such a tremendous upswing from this. It would have been perfect.
Foreheads of Fury. Well, yeah. So, but also the when I read some of the critical response to this, I'm baffled, because they're like, well, what I do like is when he's acting like a human, and he's conflicted, and he's naive, and he's... And I'm like, well, no, that's actually not at all. When he's hunching his shoulders and acting weird, I don't remotely buy him as anything about the character that they're claiming he's supposed to be.
No,
that's not a confused. That's not a confused guardian of Kunlun. That's just a dumbass, right?
Yeah. That's a whiny little bia.
It's unfortunate that one of the most compelling, other than the two women it's the three women we talked about, it's unfortunate that the most compelling character in this has been exposition hobo.
Yes.
Right.
Indeed.
That's not a good sign. But yeah. So anyway, that's not great. So I finished that. You guys are way behind.
We are.
And then on Expanse, I think I'm 2 episodes back, maybe. And on Legion, I'm 3 episodes back.
Yeah, I've still only seen 3 or 4 episodes of Legion, so I need to get caught up on that badly.
Dude, you just need to make a commitment and get that done.
Yes, I do, because I love everything about it. I just haven't actually found the time to sit and enjoy it.
But that's what's so remarkable about this. Like you said at the onset, you said, well, we have so much great stuff, and you use shitty terminology, but it's true that we're in a place right now where there are competing incredibly engrossing genre television series to watch, such that our biggest complaint is finding the time to pick between them to get caught up. And that the worst problem is that a sweet Marvel Netflix show wasn't up to par. I mean, 10 years ago, the Iron Fist that they produced would have been, our eyeballs would have been popping out. I mean, it wouldn't have been considered great, but we would have been like, wow, look at that, you know?
Yeah, look at them try something amazing.
Right, look at them try and fail, but they try.
Yeah.
Right? There was nothing like this then. Now, we have a wealth of options, even among the Marvel cinematic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're more critical about it. But I can't believe that I had to force myself not to watch Legion and EXPANSE in order to make room for this, because I thought I had to get this out of the way so I wouldn't run into spoilers on the internet.
Well, and I think it really comes down to both the whoever their stunt coordinator is and the producer guy, Scott Buck, because he's like, other than this show, he did Dexter for a while. He did 6 Feet Under, Nikki, which is a sitcom of it's just not the same caliber. But like director wise in Iron Fist, we've got Sapochnik. He did a couple episodes, and he's the guy that did Battle of the Bastards on Game of Thrones. I mean, we know these guys know how to direct good TV.
Well, that's what's so confusing. When they showed the pedigree of the people that were involved in this, before we got anything, there was real hope that it was going to be, intense stuff, right? And then those early promos of it, and you're like, wait a minute.
I don't know. I think it all comes down. A big part of it is who they cast in the lead. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I don't know how they chose this dude.
But the dialogue's terrible, though. The dialogue is.
The dialogue is terrible, but I don't know if that's because of bad delivery. But I also think that they don't have the humor that infuses a lot of the other Marvel MCU products.
I think that's true too. Yeah.
And there's no witty repartee. It's just kind of sullen, drab, woe is me bullshit without the dramatic flair to pull it off, or the compelling script or visuals to make you ignore it or overlook it. And it's just, it's a dog's breakfast. It's just bleh.
We talked the other time about, we sort of micro reviewed The Crown versus Victoria, and how different the approaches of those two productions were, and how The Crown's produced by Netflix and feels like you're watching a movie, made Victoria on Masterpiece feel like a soap opera, right? Mm-hmm. Looking at the way this was produced, the lack of, think about True Detective, right? Think about how everybody fell apart about season 2, and we've talked a lot about that in the past. And I really liked it despite its problems. But one thing you can say about it is that it was shot in a cinematic way. It was shot really well. So even though it had plot problems and some other issues, it looked good while you're watching it, right?
True.
If Iron Fist was shot in a cinematic style and had some really cool effects and some really cool camera angles and all that kind of stuff, the best it had going for it was a lot of symmetry. And that's not really that hard. But you know what I mean? Like there was no there in terms of a visual style that you could point to and say, well, there's not much behind the curtain, but it looks cool. It wasn't even that. And that's where I think it really fell apart.
Well, I think it's part of it. I mean, the other part of it is supposed to be set in this gritty, hyper real, urban existential crisis universe. And I just think that it didn't come off as real. It came off as underwhelming and kind of contrived. Mm-hmm. And it was. I think they just decided they're going to throw something out quick to get to the gravy train that they're hoping will become the Defenders. And if this was just kind of a setup piece and everybody was just going through the motions pro forma, and it just fucking sucked.
Yeah.
Kris, they should have done Moon Knight and then brought him in.
They should have. Moon Knight would have been more interesting, at least.
Oh my God.
We cast that one the other time. Well, also thinking about how much it feels like a WB. We were talking last time about how what's her name, Joy Meacham, especially feels like
at least
she's
it's not a CW.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a CW.
Yeah, right. So she feels like she's on one of those shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also this. I mean, once we talked and I watched the back half of this, I was really aware of the bad dialogue. I was really aware of how they were stalling, and the bottom line is the characters stalling in just bland corporate offices is about the least interesting thing for a genre show to show us, right?
Right.
It just like they alternate between it's the dojo, it's a couple other places we haven't seen yet, and then it's the offices. And the fact that he's wandering, and these various characters wandering in and out of Rand Tower in the middle of the night every single episode. Like there's no there. There was nothing interesting about mixing up the settings to make it compelling. Nothing.
Well, especially if I'll just go to the absolute comparison of the first Iron Man with Stark Industries, and you mentioned that the plot vehicle of capturing back your family's company isn't compelling, but I would throw Iron Man as and maybe Dark Knight as a counter to that you can actually make that a very compelling internal and external plot vehicle that they just totally messed up.
That's a fair point,
right?
Yeah.
I think you can make it really compelling. It can be a real good moment of internal realization and discovery and journey through life, right? But I mean, this guy is supposed to have gone off for 15 years, learned the mastery of his trade, and become the ultimate badass, and he just comes in and says, he's more concerned about a vanilla soy latte than anything else, and that's his big moment of crisis and catharsis. It just doesn't work.
He throws tantrums and he pretends he doesn't know what the internet is, even though he disappeared in 2002.
Right.
Yeah, come on.
But you just said that you mentioned two examples, Iron Man and Dark Knight. I would say that those two were surprising examples of where this sort of story was told well, because of its casting and because of the charisma of the leads and because of how it was shot and how seriously it took the bigger thematic points about it. They were successful despite the fact that it was taking your company back. So, this is more like what you would think it would be like if someone said, this is the plot. Oh.
The blush is off the rose, gentlemen. Now they come back to reality. Oh no!
Well, and then also, the fact is, all of these comic properties in history, they all fold in on themselves. They're all copying each other. They're all variations on the same basic themes, and it's really tough now that we're seeing a bunch of good stuff coming through into these projects over these last 10, 15 years. It is really hard to watch something like this or like Arrow and say, this is not just a clone of Batman again, right?
Right.
They did Dark Knight well enough that now all these are just Dark Knight ripped off every single time.
You had to go to Arrow, man.
I've only seen 2 episodes. I couldn't go beyond that.
No, yeah. Oh.
Did you like Thomas Jane as a Punisher?
I did.
I liked him better than Ray Stevenson. I don't know if that's
I liked him in the short film that they put out after the movie, where
closing credits.
And no, they put out one. I think it was called A Good Day or something like that. And Tom Jane was so disappointed in the movie, and he still really loved the character, so he put out a rated R proof of life short film about him washing his bloody clothes at the laundromat and seeing somebody get abused in the middle of the street and beating the shit out of somebody with a Jack Daniels bottle.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty great, actually.
I'm Googling it now.
Prior to Expanse, I had no interest in Thomas Jane. I've never liked the way he looks. I didn't like the previews for The Punisher, and I just... the fact that he was involved, and then also the promo for Expanse, and he's wandering around in a fedora on a space station. I was like, that's it.
Dirty Laundry is what it's called.
Dirty Laundry. I was like, I can't tolerate Thomas Jane. He's going to ruin Expanse, and he turns out to be the best thing ever, though.
Yeah, I mean, I give the guy more credit than that. I liked him in The Mist.
Yes, he's really good in The Mist. I loved him in that, actually.
Yeah, and I thought that was one of the the King adaptations that never really. Oh no, sorry. What is it? Well, never mind. But I thought he actually pulled that off very well.
I did too. Yeah, especially for the role he was in with that, with the way The Mist ends. A lot of actors could have really botched that, and I think he did a good job with it. And I liked him in Stander as well, which was an older film, but I really enjoyed it. I think Tom would like that movie, but he hasn't seen it.
Well, and it's done, and it's written and directed by Frank Darabont, right? That had a
The
string.
Mist is, yeah.
Yeah, but that had a string of great King adaptations from The Shawshank and The Green Mile. So
yeah,
I actually really liked The Mist. I thought it was one of my more pleasant films of that era.
Yeah, I agree. The CG's a little rough in it now, but we rewatched it pretty recently, and it totally holds up. It's a really good, suspenseful, creepy little movie.
Well, he's on my radar now, so now it's very easy to imagine him in fantasy castings for other types of characters.
Way to be late to the party, Tom.
I know.
He's been in like 68 films, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he's been around forever. I mean, he was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Nemesis, The Crow, City of Angels. I mean, he's saying back, from 87 on. He's in Deep Blue Sea. I mean, how can you ever forget that movie?
You guys may think that I've watched every movie out there, but I have watched almost none of the projects that you guys have been talking about.
He played Tom Jane in Arrested Development, and he was amazing in it.
That I do remember.
and let's not forget, he had a cameo in Scott Pilgrim versus the World as the vegan police officer. That was,
I haven't seen that either.
On spot. Yeah,
I'm still waiting to see it.
He's in the new Predator movie. You'll at least see that one, right? Because he's on your radar now.
And on top of that, in the promo for it, it's like they took him out of Expanse. He maybe he doesn't have the flock of seagulls, of seagulls mohawk, the mohawk of seagulls, but he does have a fedora.
Yes, he does.
He's in the back of the bus and he's got a switchblade or something, right? It's gonna be great. That's funny.
So the Punisher Dirty Laundry. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I got it.
What if my mind was wiped? Like I saw something that was so serious that they wiped all references to Thomas Jane from my memory. Like maybe I saw all these films and I'm not meant to remember it, because if I did, it would put, serious people, they would expose them, their conspiracy or their conspiracy.
Are you a robot, Tom?
I think they call it opioid addiction.
I might be a life model Tole. I don't know. So yeah. Well, okay. So, all right. So Iron Fist, hot mess. Maybe.
Don't insult hot messes like that.
But there are certain cast members that I could not stop watching.
I just remembered that Dirty Laundry was actually produced by the guy that did that crazy ass Power Rangers short film too.
Adi Shankar.
Yeah.
The one where they're older, right?
Yeah, with Kate. Well, what's her name? That I wanted to play Ms. Marvel, but isn't now. Sackhoff.
Oh right, Katie Sackhoff. Yeah, right.
I'll have to link that on our page when we get to it. When I post this episode, I'll link Dirty Laundry in it so people can watch it, because it's pretty fun. Then maybe you can watch it, Tom. It's got that Tom Jane guy in it that you like.
I heard about him. I heard he's great. I'll see that. I like laundry too. I like Dirty Laundry.
Do you?
Knife fights. Yeah, sure. All right. I'll watch it.
Bringing a knife to a gunfight again.
That's me, man. That applies to everything with me, I think.
Hey, I'm online here a little bit, and I was just looking up Tom Jane and the Punisher, and actually, there's a little tidbit here that John Bernthal based his portrayal of the Punisher in the MCU off of Jane's performance.
I can kind of see that, actually. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Right on.
Then. I'm a big fan of Thomas Jane, man. He does some really good stuff.
Yeah, you're full of shit. I'm calling it right here, ladies and gentlemen.
Guys,
give me this.
Should have been called a long time ago.
You will become a true believer and a true fan of Thomas Jane, but today is not that day.
I am 100% Thomas Jane approved on Expanse alone.
You're a Jane girl.
I'm a Jane girl on Expanse alone.
Yeah.
On that note, I should leave you guys to talk Expanse.
Okay.
And I will return at some point, or you guys can just hang up on me. Whatever. But
don't reference how the sausage is made, man.
I've been summoned to another floor of the home, so I have to run and do that. So I will leave you guys to wax expansing.
We're going to wax poetic about expanding. That's what we're gonna
There you go.
That's inappropriate.
And good luck going through the veil, and good luck on the other side, and have a good night.
From here on out, Blake and Thom are recording alone without my supervision, so I cannot vouch for what happens after this because I still haven't caught up on Expanse, and I don't want spoilers, but he promises it's entertaining and wonderful. So enjoy the next couple hours as Thom and Blake discuss Expanse, books, science fiction, and all sorts of tangents, I'm sure. I'm assuming. I'll be back afterwards.
So, Mr. Blake.
Yes, sir.
I suppose we could do a more in-depth discussion about that sweet, sweet show, Expanse.
Yes, we can.
As a thing. So, you read these books.
No, I did not. You read these books. You told me how good they are. I have ordered those books and am going to read them as soon as they arrive.
The hell you say? I haven't read them either, man. Maybe.
I have not read them.
Kay read them. I think Kay read them because I have not. In fact, I didn't even know until I was watching the show. I had to read up on the author to discover that they didn't exist, and it was two other guys. And I was really inspired by the idea that it was developed as a role-playing game, a web-based role-playing game. Are you all right?
Am I all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whiskey went down the wrong hole.
Okay. That's a different problem. What size straw are you using for that?
there is no straw, only the spoon.
But I mean, the pedigree of this show is really interesting to me. I do remember the books though. I remember Leviathan Wakes, I think, and I remember thinking that this is typical of so many science fiction books, though, which is that the cover art is so incredibly boring that I can't get into. Like, it doesn't make me want to pick it up, right?
Yeah, it was in kind of the art is kind of a throwback, I think, to some of the 70s and 80s,
right?
Trashy sci-fi.
Burn or whatever his name was that would do all those. Yeah, I know. I know.
Well, even some of the Conan the Barbarian, the original series, right? When they republished them and serialized them, and it's just it's an unfortunate period of cover art. And you just take a look at the first one, Leviathan Wakes, with the body floating out there, and then I guess we'll call it Nemesis Games, that looks like something inspired by a really bad acid trip of The Matrix. You can see that.
But I mean, it's been going on since the dawn of time. I mean, setting aside all of the 80s and 70s stuff that you're talking about, even some of our favorite authors, the only time that their cover art was reasonable was when they or someone had the sense to just put none of it on there, like Stevenson's stuff, where it's just the sextant or whatever it is, or the Cryptonomicon, for example, where there's the petroglyph or whatever it is on the cover, and that's it. Best cover ever, right?
Right. Well,
but if you look at the Gibson's early stuff, and it's just the wackadoo, bad pixelated psychedelic 80s cyberpunk stuff's terrible.
Yeah, I don't know. Snow Crash, I still kind of have a sweet spot for the cover of the original printing of that book in '92. I still I'm kind of fond of that. But you take a look at some of Will Gibson's stuff, right? I mean, you can easily see that, especially his most seminal work is still kind of really bad on the art front.
Yeah,
he's learned more now.
Well, I don't know how much I really honestly don't know how much the authors have a say in how the packaging of their books happen, right? I mean, I've certainly heard interviews where authors talk about the fact that they were alarmed when they saw their book on the shelf. So, I don't know I don't know how much they even get any input in it.
Mm-hmm. But like, I don't know, probably not a lot. Like Mona Lisa Overdrive, I would think would be something I would never sign up for. But the cover art for that, and the original Count Zero was really hokey, and then Adoru, if you
right,
the original cover out of that looks like something off of a sexploitation,
I remember
bag. Really bad, really bad. So
that was when I started getting two or more copies of every book.
And the original Neuromancer, right, was kind of
yeah. Well, so I'm excited because I'm reading books again.
And I'm trying to do it like real hard copy books. I'm trying not to do the electronic stuff. So that's why I'm waiting for the Expanse books to arrive in the mail and not download them.
Yeah, I mean, I've always collected the hardcover books, much to the complaint of my friends who would help me move year to year. You have to move a whole bookcase full of hardcovers, but they make for good lending books, right? That's what I like about hardcovers. But it's been this last few years with between the kids and my work and everything else, I have not been able to pick up a book and read for any length of time without falling asleep, and then I pick it up the next time and I have to go back 2 pages to see what I read, and next thing I know I'm at the cover, right?
Yeah.
So, I finally got myself a little book light, and I put books on the counter on the side table, and I can actually just start to methodically get back into that routine because I love reading. It was just not having the time to do it was making it not enjoyable,
No, it's really tough. And then by the time you read, you've got 3 pages in you, and then you're out.
Yeah. Well, my favorite period of reading was when I had first moved to San Francisco and I was single. It was before I had met my wife. I spent a year, plus or minus, right? A year. So this includes my interning time, but every day at lunch I would just take off and go to one of the buildings nearby, and I'd either go into the into the quad, or I would go up onto the roof. They had roof access, and I would eat my lunch and read my book for 1 hour, And it was a nice routine. Every day I got an hour of reading in. It's fantastic.
Yeah, same. And planes too. I try to read on planes, but economy just doesn't work.
Yes.
For real comfort level.
Yes, it makes it challenging. So I haven't gotten these books yet. I thought maybe for my birthday they might show up, but I did get some of the.
Well, now I know. I know. Friend.
You've done enough. But
no, thank you. That's good to know. Make sure no one else, like your wife, gets it.
No, you know what? My wife gave me the oral history of Saturday Night Live, which is something I've wanted to read for years, which is fantastic.
I was going to say, the oral history of Saturday Night Live, does that come with a biped or a quadruped version?
Oh, son of a bitch. And then I know what you mean. And then also my brother-in-law and sister-in-law gave me all of the Aftermath books. So I have those to get through as well. The Star Wars Aftermath. Have you read those? You did.
No.
No?
No. I read, well, okay, so which Aftermath book? Sorry. I read the ones that were right after the episode 6. I read some of those, right?
That's these three. And I had bought Bloodline, which is the one right before Force Awakens, and I got 30 pages in and had to put it down.
Yeah.
Just because there was so much internal monologuing on Leia's side. I was just like, and I read, and I find out later, it gets really great. I didn't get there yet, so we'll see. But so I have those books, and I still have a couple of editions of Neil Stevenson from you, and some William Gibson that I'm also working through. So
yeah, that's
at 3 pages a night.
Yeah,
that'll get me through my deathbed. Probably.
Well, welcome to the Canterbury Tales reader style.
Speaking of Canterbury, sweet Expanse, man.
Indeed.
That show is gangbusters. It's like, I wonder if we could have Expanse. Could we have Expanse if Battlestar Galactica didn't exist? Right?
That's a really good question.
Because Battlestar Galactica, for all its faults, it's like proof of concept.
Right? Yeah.
What's that?
I don't know that we would. But I'd also say it's kind of a combination of Babylon 5, Battlestar Galactica, or a culmination, not a combination, because it's not a merging of those necessarily completely disparate plot vehicles, but I think Battlestar Galactica and Babylon 5 are probably the two that I could draw the most parallels with in terms of the visual aesthetic and kind of the plot development and the character development over an arc.
Babylon 5, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I admit I didn't watch much of it, but it didn't stand out for me that way. So, what about Babylon 5?
I just thought it was a little more a reality-based variant of like Deep Star, or Voyager, or the Star Trek thing, where the future is really, really clean and everybody's really, really happy until they're not, and then you blow them up. Whereas Babylon 5 is kind of like this beggars war and political intrigue. I think it's a political intrigue aspect of it that reminds me of so much of what's going on in The Expanse, because the multi-layered behind the scenes politics schmucking is as important as the folks on the front line doing the discovery and the kind of terrifying moments of, oh shit, what's that, outside of an evac suit walking around for. So,
well, in Battlestar Galactica, the earlier seasons of it anyway, such proof of concept for this sort of neo-realism, right? For space opera stuff. The expansiveness and yet the claustrophobic nature of the ships, the realistic interactions and personalities between very broken or flawed characters in a command structure, the terror of an enemy threat combined with the void of space, which really makes me think. I mean, Battlestar Galactica, half of it is Das Boot, right? It's all submarine warfare, as far as I'm concerned.
It's Das Space.
Das Space. Terrible. Yeah, I mean, the one thing I remember not liking about Battlestar Galactica when it first came out, when it was the miniseries, and I watched part of it and gave up, was I was so outraged at the sounds in space problem. I couldn't get away from that, even though it's a mechanism that really works, particularly in Battlestar and in Expanse as well. If you accept it, it's done really well. Mm-hmm. But when I first saw,
without some of the finer details that they kind of obviate or ignore when it's a necessary plot vehicle, but everybody does that,
right? But like when Battlestar Galactica was relaunched as sort of a modern thing, I wanted it to be more like 2010 or 2001. I wanted it to be silence in space, hear the pilot breathing, hear thumping around inside his craft, but not deep space whooshes. And Battlestar Galactica went another approach, and it almost sounds like things are hurtling through blades of grass. It's like there's this weird, sharp, shallow sound when all the ships are launching off the bays, right? And also shot with that Steadicam thing. Like it took that first time I couldn't even deal, and then I went back and watched it, and I was like, "Oh crap, this is the best ever." But I mean, it's hard to imagine Expanse happening without Battlestar planting the seeds. But what Expanse does that I don't think I've almost ever seen, other than Blade Runner, and we've talked about this before, I'm sure, but capturing space cyberpunk in a way that is convincing, right?
Yeah. Because it's really difficult, and it's Blade Runner really did it to the T, and kind of that postmodern hyper-real everything is like now. It's just more sucky and more neon,
hyper compressed. William Gibson's favorite stuff, right?
Yep.
But a lot of that orbital imagery that you'd read about in some of the books, and then you see how they rationalized it in this production, and you're like, wow, you managed to pull off all the patois of belters and their slightly elongated bones and weird tattoos and heavy tribal nature, because there's that big theme in this about humans being their own worst enemy because we're still acting like monkeys, right? Or monkeys in space, but we're still doing the same stupid shit.
Well, I think monkeys in space would be better behaved than humans in space in the right.
And
a lot of it.
But like all of the mishmash styles, like when I saw the promo stuff, we talked about this before with Thomas Jane and the fedora and the Hawaiian shirt or whatever, I'm like, this is outrageous. I can't even deal. And then when you watch it and you see why he's wearing it and how he's desperate for these reference, it's like people wearing old timey clothes and walking around wanting to be attached to some culture that doesn't exist anymore, right?
Yeah,
I totally get it now.
It's like Portlandia.
It totally is. the dream of the 3090s.
Yeah, it's the 1890s once again.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I'm gonna throw a complete non sequitur at you. There's a lot with Outland. Did you see Outland with Sean Connery in 1981?
Oh, that's not the one where he's in a bikini, right?
No. Well, I'm trying to remember. I might have blotted that out with.
No, that's Zardos or something like that, where he had this weird skinny
Zardos. Yeah, Zardos. Yeah. No, Outland is there. They have a mining colony on the Jupiter moon of Io.
Uh-oh.
And he's like the new sheriff in town. So it's kind of this Wild West homage with a sci-fi bent to it. It's just like Decker in Blade Runner. It's kind of the Dick homage, but put into a different setting. It is a really gritty, urbane, human suck take on sci-fi that I also, the more I think about it, a lot of elements I like about it, including some of the physics side of it, except for what happens when you decompress in space, which Outland just went completely over the silly top on. But I think another thing you need to recognize is that, at least I recognize that without Ridley Scott, sure, I don't think Expanse video style would work at all. Right?
They're trading heavily on his style. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that the neo-noir thing, because Miller in particular, I mean, it is a noir show, but his whole arc is Dashiell Hammett to a T, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't need the fedora to broadcast it. He's pining over a woman that doesn't even exist anymore in a drunken state, rubbing up against the law and violating all of his own rules and all this other stuff. And then he's a tragic character in the end. I just think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. Good point about Ridley Scott though, because Ridley Scott can sometimes be as a storyteller, he can fall apart, but it never stops looking good.
Right. I'll just point to the thing that people least expected to be wonderful from him, which is the most recent hit, which is The Martian. Right. I mean, it was like there were no aliens popping out of rocks or popping out of Matt Damon. But I love that movie. It's actually a tremendous piece of work, and but it's the cinematography and the Castaway in space kind of thing. But
how brilliant was it to include the narrative of him recording his log?
Oh, you never read the book, did you?
No, and I understand they toned it way down from the way he is in the book, but that as a narrative structure to make a one-man show be compelling for 2 hours was incredible.
Yeah, but then
and again, it's casting though too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But then you look at Castaway with Hanks just in the lonely solitude of it all, and there's no charming retrospective voiceover narrative. It's equally as compelling. It's just they're both tremendous films. It's just they're different incarnations of you can say loosely speaking, the same vehicle.
Yeah, the same low-powered vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, I saw Martian with Kris one night after the first convention that we did Artist Alley together. So that night we went and saw The Martian at the local theater in Sacramento and thought it was incredible. And then you and I saw Interstellar together.
Yep.
So those were like two incredible space movies that were so well done all in 1 year. So that was pretty great.
Well, you're just saying, like, we were talking about the superheroes and having a wealth of riches, and we can, afford to, flame out Iron Fist because it's the run of the litter. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we have this wealth of. Thank God we're alive now that we have the sci-fi renaissance, we have the superhero renaissance. At least for me, right? I still try to imagine young Tom getting a glimpse of some of these things that we almost take for granted. We're like breaking apart Justice League trailer, like, well, I don't know, it's kind of ripping off Avengers, doesn't have much heart, or like Spider-Man. Well, give me a break. If it doesn't even have to be Iron Man and Dark Knight and stuff like that to blow my socks off as young Tom. If I saw even even Thor 2
if I saw a glimpse of that in 1979 or 1980, I would have just been like, "Is this?" I mean,
yeah, I mean, get the fuck out of here, right? I mean, just give me. Yeah, I would just it would blow my mind, right? And the same thing, especially when you take a look at the superhero crap that we had at the time we were growing up, or at least I was growing up, like the Spider-Man show, which was awful, Captain America, which was awful, the Hulk, which was the best of the lot in my opinion, but it was still pretty bad.
Although I will give Hulk credit that they did in one of the Hulk telefilms what they ended up doing in Daredevil season 1 that I love so much, which was put Daredevil just in black tactical pants and a stretchy top and put a black bandana on him and then call it a day. That's what I love so much about season 1 of Daredevil. That's all I really wanted to see out of him. And it took me straight back to that film, right? Even their Thor was kind of good, right? All the faux fur and all that stuff.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I can go there with you, but it was.
No?
I don't know, man.
Oh man, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, he was terrible actor, but
yeah, and Wonder Woman. I mean, yeah. We'll see how the standalone Wonder Woman film comes across, but it's got Chris Pine in it, so I have hope.
It certainly looks like it looks good, and the question will be whether the story will hold up. But
yeah, but see, my issue is with Zack Snyder, right? Everything that he does looks good. Mm-hmm. It just sometimes sucks.
You saw that Justice League trailer, right?
Yeah.
I was just falling apart. Lung sent it to me and was like, when it came out that morning, and I was late to it, and he said, "You got to watch it." So I started I was commenting to him on my phone while I was watching. He's like, "You're live tweeting this trailer?" But I was having so much trouble with it early on. I was like, "Something's coming. We've got to do something. You, me, the others, we. That's what we means. We got to do something."
We. In case you don't know, let me go to the thesaurus.
It's just so terrible. The dialogue is atrocious,
but that's a Snyder. I mean, come on. Like, if you really are brutally honest with like 300, for instance, right? The screenwriting is just fucking abysmal, and it's they pull it off in 300, but sometimes they don't.
Well, that's the thing about Iron Fist, though. Once Kris and I talked last time, and we were talking about the poor dialogue, I started focusing on that. And granted, it's coming out of his mouth, and he's not doing us any favors because he's not convincing when he says these things. But like when I'm aware of bad dialogue, I suddenly see it in front of me, right? Like I can see the text in my mind, and it doesn't help, right? And so the Iron Fist dialogue is really bad when you start paying attention to it. Yeah. Especially when they're treading water with it, right? But anyway. So, yeah. So, also, with regards to The Martian and Interstellar, The Martian became very well received critically and by the public. Interstellar, less well received, right?
Yeah.
Average people, I don't know how critics felt about it. I know a lot of people complain about the ending. But I thought it was amazing, though. I couldn't even deal. I couldn't even deal with Interstellar, how much I love that movie.
No, I loved it too. It's just I would agree that the ending was, I don't know why they left Anne Hathaway abandoned on a planet and waited for him to come back to go get her. I just still don't understand that. And then
the last 5 minutes were not necessary. Right. He could have actually just slipped into the thing and that'd be the end of it. We didn't need him to come back.
Right. And if he's out in space, when they're doing the time shots, why couldn't he come back? Right at the scene at the barn when they had the big storm and they're blown out. So I don't understand why they placed them, in outside the wormhole other than they had to, even though they could bend time and space and you could see all this. But, overall, up to that point, I thought it was absolutely brilliant.
Well, and Nolan has had in other films, his construct will be amazing, and then all of a sudden it'll have this hokey or sort of
ending. Yeah.
cheesy little emotional component to it that you can imagine if you were to just slice that right off, it would be a perfect film. And I give him a lot of credit that it's part of his vision, right? That's the film he wants to make.
Well, he doesn't need to make a film for anybody else, right? He can make whatever the heck he wants.
Right.
But it's just like The Dark Knight Rises, right? That ending at the end of that film is really contrived. Inception is really contrived at the end, and it's I think he just maybe he just loves that.
Right. He just likes to throw in his version of a fairy tale ending on some of these stories, right?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
But with Expanse, though, here's another thing about it that surprised me. Maybe Sci-Fi Channel has been producing quality stuff before this, and I wasn't aware of it. But my impression was always that anything that was made for the Sci-Fi Channel, that it was going to be like Andromeda and stuff, like just like, B-movie level genre stuff.
Oh, no, they've been making good stuff for a while. I mean,
Wow.
You mentioned Battlestar Galactica, right?
Right. Was that on Sci-Fi Channel?
Yeah.
Oh. See, I watched that entirely on Netflix discs, and then it wasn't Sci-Fi, was it?
Yeah, it was.
I didn't have Sci-Fi. When I watched the last 2 seasons live, it must have been cross-posted to Hulu or something else. Well, anyway, I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware of them having anything that was very good. I thought that what they were producing was generally much more like what we used to think of as the made-for-TV quality, right?
Well, yeah, but I think Battlestar Galactica was the series that transformed their approach, just like AMC.
Right.
Who the hell watches AMC for high-quality television until Breaking Bad happened?
Right.
And then The Walking Dead happened, and suddenly, and Mad Men, and suddenly they're like the best network on TV, right?
Oh, so, Preacher. Yep. I see what you mean. Well, anyway, it took me by surprise. I remember reading about this project and then seeing some clips from it, or seeing photographs, or whatever, thinking, oh, that's another good-looking set for a cheesy sci-fi show. Not having any expectation that it was going to be good. There was another show that they had around the same time as the season 1 of this was on, right? There was another sort of a space-based story, right? Wasn't there one? There was another one.
There's The Colony, but that's on ABC. That's on, right?
Yeah, there was some other one.
They have 12 Monkeys. They have The Magicians.
Let me tell you about watching the Sci-Fi Channel streaming. You watch this 30-second music-based montage of The Magicians 85 times.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell if that's a good show or not.
Have you not watched Channel Zero?
I have not.
Okay, that's another good one you should take a look at. Incorporated must be the one you're talking about.
No.
Matter.
No, I think it might be Dark Matter. I'm looking it up right now. I will say Incorporated is one that I have high hopes for because of all of my cyberpunk stuff,
And Killjoys, but and of course there's Sharknado. I mean, you can't dispute the quality of Sharknado and Z Nation.
Of course. So is Magicians any good? Have you watched that?
It's something that the wife and I, she loves it and I like it too. It's campy. It kind of reminds me of a kind of the unadulterated sheer joy of a really bitter screenwriter living out all of his life's frustrations through his actors.
Really?
much like Buffy. So I actually, it's campy, it's fun, and the screenwriting is the scripts are the best part of it, and the actors are pretty good for Canada. So yeah.
Is Killjoys good?
I have not watched anything on Killjoys.
And Incorporated, did you actually start watching that?
I watched the first episode and that's it. And then Dark Matter, I never watched anything.
So Incorporated doesn't hold up.
No, I don't know. Channel Zero is actually a little creepy.
Is it an anthology series though, or no?
It's just 6 episodes. It was kind of a real limited series, kind of really creepy, mind bender. It's actually really good. But
Dark Matter is the one I was thinking of. Dark Matter and Expanse. I remember looking at those and feeling like they seemed interchangeable in the promo material, but interesting. The Expanse trades, so I haven't read these books. I want to read them, but it trades heavily on a lot of the imagery.
You'll be getting the opportunity to read them soon.
Oh, awesome. So this crassness recorded live in front of a studio audience. Give me those books, Blake. I will, Tom. So
while we were talking, I just ordered them on Amazon. I'll give them to you on Friday.
Oh, sweet Lord. So The Expanse, it shows a lot of imagery that matches up with what I imagine when I read C.J. Cherryh's work.
Yeah. Or even Stevenson with 70s, right? You could see, right? And I really hope someone makes a movie out of 70s, but that whole trapped in a box, and at the same time you're in imminent risk of dying in just the void,
right?
And that's your new reality. You don't have any atmosphere that you can, just run out onto terra firma, until they do at the end of the book. So,
right,
it's right. It's really, I love it. I just love it.
Both copies of 70s are in my stack here, by the way. I haven't even, but I've read enough about it to know what you mean. But also, like, one of my favorite C.J. Cherryh books, and the one that I would loan out to people constantly to try to get them turned on. It's the book that I loaned out to the guys, and then we ended up doing the Cyberpunk campaign that was Orbital stuff, was A Heavy Time.
Yeah.
And look at how much of Expanse has Heavy Time written all over it, right down to the promo imagery of the cosmonaut trying to hold on as all the rocks are flying everywhere.
Yep.
All the ship that's torn apart, and people are showing up on the scene late, kind of like showing up to the bubbles of the Titanic and wondering what happened, kind of thing. I think it's fantastic.
Yep. Absolutely.
And the fractured storytelling, the fractured and unreliable narrator, and all that stuff. Yeah, it's fantastic. And then and she's really good about ship life, military ship life, and the idiosyncrasies of station life, and both of which are really powerful in Expanse too.
Well, you will see that in 70s as well. How that and this is a general term. I won't give any more spoilers from it, but how in a moment of crisis that typically a more military dogmatic approach to life happens. You see the same thing with the Culture series. I don't know if you have read any of those.
This involves books, right?
Yes, it does. By those hard to turn pages. But Ian Banks has the Culture series, and it's still, it's got the political intrigue, but it's all got military overtones to a really libertarian democratic society. So, but when the shit hits the fan, martial law applies and the Constitution is voided, and that sends all the way back to the Romans. So
and then hope that it unclenches, because it often does not, right?
Well, it usually leads to an apocryphal event that leads to a transition to something better.
Okay, Bannon, sure, that's what's happening. So. Any of my friends,
you'll feel a slight pressure, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah. Any of my friends from 15 years ago or so would just, if you were to tell them that I would be reporting that I hadn't been able to read a book in 2 years, and the best I could do is read a couple of comics or a lot of news on my iPad before I fell asleep, would just be like aghast. Not just because the iPad didn't exist and it's pretty exciting, but also because I was well known for having so many books and constantly reading books and pushing them on people. And when we were first hanging out, it was all about pushing books back and forth. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that aspect of my life back.
It's just reproduction and family obligations. It just destroys everything, basically. So everyone listening, don't do it.
But you called it though, and that is that you bring the books on the plane.
Yeah.
And that's my thing, because for the last several years, every time I go on a business trip, including the one I'm about to go on, I have the laptop out because I'm working on production. I'm working on something on producing a book, producing stuff, and I'm not absorbing content, I'm creating it. And so that's an interesting challenge for me and that's frankly why even I don't watch as many shows as I should, or read as many books.
People expect you, right?
Well, but you know what I mean. Like I have trouble. I don't play my PlayStation because I think, well, I should be drawing. I need to be drawing something or producing something or writing something. It's the same thing about sitting down to read a book or sitting on an airplane. I'm like, this is valuable time away from the kids. I need to be producing. It's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard.
But hey, maybe we should talk about the cast. Let's talk about this wonderful cast on The Expanse. I understand a lot of it is sci-fi regulars, right?
Yep. Hold on. Wait a minute. Is this true? Anson Mount is going to be Black Bolt for Inhumans. Are you kidding me?
Who's Anson Mount?
From Hell on Wheels.
Oh. I think you're right.
Get the heck out of here.
I wasn't familiar with the actor, so I didn't know, like, I didn't see Hell on Wheels. I only saw like a promo.
I mean,
I have it saved, but I never watched it.
I can't believe it. That's a really bold move.
How so?
Well, he's always been this kind of the sheriff Western. He's typecast as that, and
yeah, I recognize it.
And actually, Black Bolt is not going to have a big scruffy beard and big long hair.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see him transform physically. In terms of acting, in terms of straight out acting, I don't have any issue with it. I think he's a hell of an actor. Because we actually watched the Hell on Wheels up until the last half of the last season, and that's still in the queue. But it's wow.
I need to see that. It's in my queue.
I had not heard it, and I'm blown away. That's a really
well. I'm looking at a picture of him without the Hell on Wheels stuff. You know, like cleaner shaven, and in normal clothes, and you could definitely see him. However, as I understand it, in that production, he's not going to wear the tuning fork and all that stuff. He's going to be more plainly dressed. But
I can't imagine them doing the tuning fork, especially the dog with the tuning fork. That would not be.
Can you not? But you've seen that they have Lockjaw, right? I mean, Lockjaw's legit in that show.
Yeah, I know, but it's not. I mean, is he going to be a 1-ton dog?
They've shown them filming in Boston or Chicago or somewhere, and they've got a mock-up for the purposes of placement, CGI placement, and it's shoulder height. It's huge. It looks like one of those. It looks like one of those bowls, right? One of those painted bowls in Chicago, right?
But it's gonna be the same effect that they did with the Hulk, right? But yeah,
meaning what?
We'll see. No, but you see all the the big hands or the big head on sticks, and they roll it around, and yeah.
But I mean, it's going to be in the show. They really are going to have the giant bulldog with the.
They're going to have the 1-ton dog. That's what they're going to do.
So what? Dog. Right, and so I'm a little disappointed because I think Black Bolt's design through the years was one of my favorites. I think it's really iconic. I love the look of his costume.
Oh yeah, the Inhumans were one of my favorites as a kid reading comics.
Well, it's interesting that Marvel has pushed the Inhumans over these last several years. Once they sort of got their sea legs in the film industry, and they couldn't get the X-Men back, which, it was a necessary evil to stave off bankruptcy. But, so they just made because the Inhumans always were just another mutant, right? Just like the Deviants and all these other ones, right?
Yeah.
So they've really pushed across all media, in comics and in the cinematic stuff, that the Inhumans are their new mutants, right? So they're going full tilt on that. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been doing Inhumans for a season and a half. I just think that the IMAX stuff is going to be that series is going to be like much more. Certainly it's going to be more royal family, and it's going to be a higher stakes stuff because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is using Inhumans as mutants. Period.
Right. Just another class of mutants. Right.
So also on Inhumans, they've got I always butcher his name. Is it Ewan Ryan?
Yeah.
I don't think I said that right.
Juan. Right.
Juan.
Juan.
Huh. I could look it up, but I'm not going to. Well, I love him. And him playing Maximus, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's going to be great.
That is good shit right there. I love him. I loved him ever since Misfits, which is still one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
And Ken Lung, too. He's in that.
Yeah, he's awesome. I've always been a big fan of his. I just find it ironic that the Inhumans have been, to some subjugated to a TV series, whereas Guardians of the Galaxy have blown up. Whereas if you take a look at the population dynamics and the readership of those two, it would be the complete opposite, right?
Well, I was convinced when Guardians of the Galaxy was announced, I was convinced that was going to be their first misstep, right? I mean, there was no way that was going to work.
I thought Ant-Man was going to be their one that was going to.
Really?
Yep.
Well, I was concerned.
Adam Rudd pulled it out. I mean, see what it did.
Well, when we left the project, and I thought we were going to lose the heist film aspect of it, which we kind of did. But when that change happened, I thought, okay, it's doomed, right? And they ended up turning out to be a great movie anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no Thor 2 though, but
no, but Strange also defied all expectations on mine, right? I thought then okay, yeah, whatever. But it's probably one of my top 5 Marvel movies now.
Well, we talked about it coming out of there, right? It was they managed to pull it out. It's all about, can you make something new? Can you raise your game and do something more interesting than the last one?
Yeah,
that's what makes their movies good when they work,
right?
And they're different, or they've stepped it up, versus treading water, which is something like, for example, Thor 2 again, which was just straight up treading water.
Well, or Iron Man 2, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
right? I mean, that
sure.
was sure. But so that's what puts it in such stark contrast.
Stark contrast
to the television branch of Marvel, which,
right?
Agent Carter got axed after 2 years.
It sucked because
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I enjoyed that stuff.
Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are always on the bubble. I mean, it was great that they had the Netflix thing come up where they could do some things that they couldn't do on broad network TV.
Well, Perlmutter was clamped around the ABC stuff, right? Perlmutter's, that's his fiefdom when he lost the cinematic universe, and I think that's been part of the conflict, is that they can't get rid of him.
Yeah,
I think if it was under a different overall stewardship, the ABC stuff would be a lot more cohesive and better. I still watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I mean, it feels much more, I don't know, just sort of mediocre television. Happens to be of a subject matter I like, but it's still fairly mediocre compared to something like the experiments they do with Netflix. But
yeah. No, I just think it's edgier. You're not limited by content or ratings. Right. I mean, look at Jones, right? I mean, I thought I was not going to like that show at all, and then it was. I absolutely adore it.
That was one where the casting was what I wasn't. I mean, that character is so specific in how she's portrayed in the comics due to Malev's art, that you can visualize her so well that when they cast what's her name in it, I was just like, that's not the girl from Gilmore Girls and the bitch in Apartment 23B or whatever. That like, this is not Jessica Jones. She totally made it work.
Well, but I would say the same thing plagues Iron Fist.
Sure.
Right. When I saw who they cast Iron Fist, I'm like, are you effing kidding me? At least Kristen Ritter has some acting chops.
Right.
I mean, dude, and she kind of proved it on the show. I think she, Benedict Cumberbatch, I had questions about with Doctor Strange, but he claimed that role. I mean, it wasn't the physical identity that Robert Downey Jr. had, for instance, with Tony Stark. I mean, now you can't imagine anybody playing that, or Jackman with Wolverine, right? I don't know how anybody's going to step into those shoes, but yeah, I hear you about Ritter. I mean, it was kind of a stretch, but I think she owned it and she made it and she pulled it off. Whereas Iron Fist, I don't think it's coming close.
There was also something, I don't know. This is sort of a weird. I don't know. I don't know where this goes exactly, but I feel like with her, part of it was that everything she had done, well, almost everything she had done leading up to that was about pushing her into or pushing into the glamour role of, is she sexy? Is she a sexy girl? Is she a sexy woman? Is she doing this and that? I mean, they're playing off her physical assets. And yet she's a very unusual looking woman for the mainstream
audience. Yeah, absolutely.
Hollywood interpretation of what the hot girl is supposed to look like. I mean, she's long and funny and has weird face and all this other stuff compared to the anorexic supermodel that they're all supposed to be. And yet she's very attractive, and yet she has a nice figure and everything else. But in this, she's stripped down, very very raw, very plainly dressed, no makeup, very vulnerable, very bitter, a very realistic character, and it was incredibly intoxicating.
Yeah, but also just an absolute train wreck of a human.
Right.
Like every bad decision she can make, she does. Every bad act she can make, she does. Any chance to stand up and be responsible and accountable, she doesn't.
She's self-fulfilling prophecy, right? She just
just an absolute train wreck of a human, but yet is cursed or blessed with this ability to do things no one else can. And then at the end, when it really comes down to that crucible defining moment, for better or for worse, she does the right thing.
And and she stepped up against her fear.
Maybe she does the right thing. Tenet, I thought, was brilliant in his acting. And so what happens at the end?
What a wonderful gray area villain. I mean, he was so horrible, and yet, they talk so much about the weakness of Marvel villains, right?
Right.
Oh, okay, we have a Loki, and we have, who do they consider good Marvel villains, right? Loki and maybe Kingpin, maybe.
No,
I love him, but
no, but I wouldn't put him up there with
But Purple Man was amazing. He was so complex, such an interesting character. But so the thing about her is, I can see other projects where they would have taken a very naturally, sort of normalized, attractive actress in that role, gone light on the makeup, on the stage makeup.
Yeah.
Put her in Hot Topic and then called it a day, and that they very deliberately didn't do that with her, and they really made her rough, was what really, which helped seal the deal for me, I guess. And I could see how that was they probably really fought to do that. I can see executives saying, no, she needs to be, naturally pretty. No, she doesn't.
No,
we need to disguise that. She needs to be beat up all the time. So anyway, but the thing about Doctor Strange, we should probably even do. So at some point, we should even talk Doctor Strange in more detail because Kris, I think he saw it, but then I don't know, if it goes past 2 weeks, he's got too much. He's full, right? So he does that ROM rewrite every time. But I remember feeling coming out of there that the one thing I wish they had done is instead of making him another Tony Stark with the ego and the quips, that he should have just been more cold and arrogant, and then forced into humility. Like he was a little more charismatic than I needed him to be, a little more Robert Downey Jr.-ish than I wanted, but otherwise he did a really great job.
No, I think it's a Marvel trait to have the kind of smart-ass hero that is very glib, and at the same time self-effacing and deprecating, but at the same time just a freaking jerk in terms of the ego. And when I was a huge fan of the comics when I was growing up, and it never, that kind of pride or that hubris really never came through in the original incarnation of the character that I remember.
Well, because they never touched on it,
right?
But then again, in the comics, he's a very polite and wise. He's a polite, patient, and wise character, right?
Right.
And granted, this is just Doctor Strange 1.0 in the movies, but he's still coming off Robert Downey Jr. style. Even once he's got the robes and everything else, he's still kind of
Well, because I think they know that that's what sells.
Yeah, you're right.
I think in the commoditization of this, there's a certain shtick that he can use as a guidebook. And just take a look at how much he just hammered Iron Fist for not having any humor or deprecating. And it's just this, emo angst Afro bullshit.
It is such the Urban Outfitters of a Marvel Netflix show. But the other thing about Doctor Strange is, it's always said that Watchmen was the unfilmable comic, and he did a good job of translating panel to panel to the screen, but the heart of it.
I don't agree with that at all. I think Watchmen was eminently filmable. I just think they weren't willing to make the changes to make it filmable. Okay. They wanted to stay true to it, and as a result, it alienated a large section of the viewing population.
No, what I mean is they always said Watchmen wasn't filmable because the entire concept was subversion, subversioning. It was subverting.
Subversive.
It was subversive, but it was subverting the concept of 4-color comics. You have to be fully engrossed in all the comic lore to understand Watchmen as what it really is, as opposed to the topical thing. And so the surface level of Watchmen is what he filmed, but we didn't get that other layer. And could anybody do it? Because it's referencing a medium and a level of content that the average viewer wouldn't have. But I was going to say that Doctor Strange, all of the timey-wimey, mystical, multi-dimensional magic stuff in Marvel Comics was what I always thought was unfilmable. That and the Kirby Deep Space stuff. And between Guardians of the Galaxy and Doctor Strange, they've managed to surprise us in a very positive way. And I think also this new Thor Ragnarok is going to be another level of it. Having him go weird 80s pop style with it is just like, I can't parse it, but it's going to be great, right?
And Jeff Goldblum emerges once again from the ashes, coming up to surprise us all.
Have you seen my Jeff Goldblum shirt that I got?
The what?
Have you seen my Jeff Goldblum shirt that I got?
I have not seen it yet.
It's like neck to belly, his face, just full, just his entire face in line art form, but it's 3D, right? So it's the color separation. So you're just walking around with a giant, blue and red 3D graphic of Goldblum's head, so that somewhere someone is going to be walking around the corner with a pair of 3D glasses on, going, "What the hell?"
Yeah,
I loved it to death. I couldn't believe how wrong it was, so I had to have it.
Okay, but I'll tell you just real quickly about why I'm also very excited about Thor Ragnarok. Is just like when they had Kenneth Branagh do the original Kenneth Branagh. Sorry, I'm slaughtering his name. But Taika Waititi is just a freaking brilliant filmmaker.
Right.
And I cannot wait to see him let loose with the resources to bring to bear on that film.
He's been so good in the projects that he has been involved in. This is about as far of a stretch that they've done yet, as far as giving an indie filmmaker with a very specific point of view the keys to the kingdom and said, just do whatever. It's kind of like what didn't work with Iron Man 3 might work here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kenneth Branagh was, he wasn't a huge mainstream director.
That's
right. And, a Shakespearean trained actor that, did a lot of niche movies, followed his passion in cinematography, and then just gets handed this, 800-pound gold-plated torpedo to go after, and he pulled it off. I mean, I thought he, I think it probably brought him in because of his Shakespearean chops, and he can make it, kind of a quasi-Arthurian Shakespearean mythos of Thor, and that's exactly what they needed for the first one.
But that was like what was on the tin was in the can, or right? What was in the can was on the what was in the tin was on the label. Like when they cast him as when they gave it to him as the director, they were asking, give us a grand Shakespearean tragedy or tale, and make it Thor, and you got that.
Yeah, but with humor.
But with some humor. But with this new project,
with a lot of humor, and Natalie Portman was responsible for a lot of it.
You're right. You're right.
I mean, so it was yes, we can have this pantheon mythos of larger than life deities, and yet they have all the same quirks and fallibilities as humans, and we'll throw them together just to magnify how similar they are, but recognize the differences.
Right. Well, with Thor Ragnarok, it's like you don't totally know what to expect, except that in the same way, I feel like it's a lot like Iron Man 3 before Iron Man 3 came out, where they took a director or a creator that's not known for this kind of film, but is known for a certain type of buddy movie, dialogue specific, tonally very quirky kind of product. Mm-hmm. And then they gave him the big action figures and said, go nuts.
Yeah.
And I really liked Iron Man 3, but as a commercial property, it really struggled. I liked the experiment. I thought it was fun. I love that they did the experiment, and I think that this Thor is going to be similar in that way, that it's going to be unusual by a lot of people's standards. I think a lot of mainstream viewers are going to go to that and go, what the living shit is happening?
But that's okay.
Right? Yeah, that's a great thing, I think.
Yeah.
So the cast of EXPANSE.
Yes, let's go back to the cast of EXPANSE.
So we've talked about how Thomas Jane. No, this is great. I love. No, this is what it's supposed to be. Free associating, but so Thomas Jane. Ultimately, I think is he not the best known actor in that series? Like, was he
not even close.
No.
Chad Coleman, Fred Johnson is really well known.
But as a he's a that guy though.
What do you mean? That character actor?
He's a that guy, right?
It's about Jared Harris.
Yes, but he came in. But what I'm saying is, when they start the series and when they're pitching it and they're saying this is what we're going to do, he's the best known actor in that.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
That's what Sci-Fi does. They go after a bunch of unknowns, right? That they can afford.
Right. But a lot of these guys are from other sci-fi shows, right? Like Stephen Strait as Holden, Cass Anvar as Alex, Dominique Tipper, I think, is on some other show. There was one other, even Florence, what's her name? Favreau, whatever.
Shorey Agdashlu has been in other things as well. She always plays that exotic alien.
Well, so does she though?
Yeah,
See, I've only seen her in when she first broke out was her stunt casting in 24, where it was like, holy shit, where did they find this woman? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
In the sleeper cell.
Yeah.
I didn't know that she had been doing other like sort of more interesting projects like this.
Yeah.
Like
let me go back. I'm seeing. So I'm looking through his biography. I don't see Stephen Strait in other sci-fi shows.
Well, I thought he was on other really?
Yeah.
He always looks as high as a kite, doesn't he?
Third Watch, which kind of his breakthrough. I remember him in that. Chase, and then Sleeping with the Fishes, Magic City, Revenge, Hot. No, when I saw him first in this role, I kind of considered him sci-fi Jon Snow.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he looked like he might be the CW type character on here. Like he looked like he was pretty and not that interesting. But then his character became interesting, and I actually really like his kind of squinty. I like his presence and his deep voice and everything else. I actually really like him. I think he's very compelling and not in a cheesecakey sort of poppy way at all. Cass Anvar as Alex, I can't wrap my head around him because he's playing this. Like, I can't figure out what's going on with that character. I like it, but it's a really interesting future cultural mishmash character, right? He's like a Texan. I don't know. He's all over the place.
Yeah.
He's a Texan, Indian, Martian, something, right? Like, he's just all over.
He is
such a trip. Such a trip.
But,
and I actually really like it. I think he's very interesting.
Yeah. And
he's from Canada, right? Regina, Canada.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Saskatchewan. Yeah, really neat.
And then Shorey.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know she was nominated for an Oscar once. I mean, good Lord. But in addition to The Expanse, she was in Star Trek Beyond.
That's right.
Commodore Paris, right? And then last night, Scorpion. She was also in Grimm. And interesting enough, Mass Effect 3, the video game.
Yes. I love her. I love how unusual. It's not just because she has an ethnicity that's not typical in Hollywood, but I love how unusual she looks. The eyes and the face. I mean, all the things about her are what women are not supposed to look like on age to in Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
She has bulging eyes. She's got wrinkles. She's got saggy things on her face. She's got this incredibly deep voice, and she's hard to understand. I think she's amazing. I cannot stop watching her, and I love the fashion. I love the style. This really elaborate formal wear she wears. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah,
she steals every scene.
Yeah.
Dominique Tipper.
Dominique Tipper, but you don't like Chad Coleman, huh? You think he's that guy, even from The Walking Dead and then to this.
Oh no. Well, remember, I didn't watch Walking Dead.
Okay.
I'm not saying I don't like him. I'm saying he's that guy, meaning he's a character actor. I love character actors, but we're talking about tentpole actors, right?
Okay.
I didn't think he was a tentpole.
But the interesting thing is that he's in Arrow, he was in The Wire, The Walking Dead, and now The Expanse.
And he did something else. He's done something else that I ran across fairly recently, and I don't remember exactly what, but I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna look him up really quick and see what that was.
The Green Hornet. He was in The Green Hornet.
Oh yes, I didn't see that.
Yeah. But he, I just love it. I just always remember him from The Wire and The Walking Dead. It was great to see him in The Expanse. I was really happy that he was part of the team. But you were talking about.
Oh, I know. He was
Dominique Tipper.
He was recently on the Goldbergs, and I was like, "What the?" All right, so yeah, Dominique Tipper. She's really neat. I think what I really like about it is that they are doing. It's everything I wanted in this kind of sci-fi, where ethnicity and even gender are not important.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more gender fluidity, to be honest with you, in Expanse, but I like that the fact that she's she's of a different ethnicity than Stephen Straight's character, and that is not even remotely a part of it. They're both semi-belters. She's a serious belter and he's a transplanted belter, but she's playing it very interesting. On the one hand, yeah, she's a dark-skinned British actor, but on the other hand, she's a full-on belter in this role with the asymmetrical tattoo and the fade and all that stuff. I love it.
What I really like is the relationship with having the show with her character Naomi and Amos. Right. I don't know if you saw the episode, but there's one where Straight's character Holden they confess that they're having a relationship. You saw that?
Yep.
And then Amos comes like, yeah, no, I'm glad she's like my sister. I mean, if she offered it up, I'd do it in a minute. But
I'd still do it. But yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And then James is like, thanks for the talk. I'm glad that we had this talk.
He's been a fascinating character because you could not tell whether he was a complete psychopath on a leash, like if he felt like betrayed by her, would he just completely go,
well,
right, rogue or what?
Do you think he did the brain zap? Do you think he got the brain zap?
It's a very good question. It's been an interesting component of that. I've been trying to decide whether he had it done or whether he's interested in it because he's starting to have conflicting emotions or something. I don't know. But I think you're right. I think maybe he did. But so his character, so I've read that in the books, they really focus in, I think there's a short story called The Churn that talks a lot about his childhood and that he is a product of a very unpleasant childhood experience. So it'll be really interesting to see how much more of that comes out in the show. But
it was that singular event when he hit that kid, the refugees, that really set him on a different arc of the character ethos.
Right,
so
and his character has a refugee past.
Right, and seeing his mom killed, right, and it will be interesting to see how that all plays out.
His whole dynamic with that postmodern astrophysicist or whatever that has been touched by the proto-molecule and is all ape shit. That guy's amazing. I love that guy.
I just wish to heavens that they had called it something else.
I know.
Besides the proto-molecule.
Listen, I'm as big a Robotech fan as the next guy, and even my comic, I even have protoculture as the lab name in the thing that he busts into the first issue. But yeah, I totally get it. But the thing about
wait, Wes Chatham was also in the Hunger Games? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either, but I'll tell you what, it was nagging me. I was like, I recognize this guy, but I can't think of anything I've ever seen him in. But I know I have a strong emotional connection to him, but I don't know why. And you know what it is? One of my favorite old shows that got canceled and I loved to death was The Unit, and he was in The Unit. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He was the new recruit. He was the new guy that then there was questions of his loyalty and all that whole thing. He was that character, and he was very he was still playing a very reserved military kind of the quiet good old boy military guy. But yeah, it was nagging at me until I finally figured it out. I was like, holy shit. But anyway, so I also thought it was pretty interesting that Paolo Costanzo from Joey was in it until he wasn't. That was great. You know, I love high stakes shit. So,
yep.
That said, I think that would have been. They've had other examples of debris punching holes and taking people out that were less gratuitous. Like he didn't need his head removed, right?
But I mean, come on,
like that was total B movie horror movie stuff. Like it should have just been a hole punch in his forehead and been there you go.
But it's just.
But it was really surprising. It took me by surprise.
It's effective storytelling. Yeah, that's
I was stunned. I couldn't believe they did that. I was like, oh shit. So I was very impressed. I think that was one of those early moments where I thought, okay, more of this. Just keep us on our toes. Well, like again, the Mars stuff with the captain of the Marine frigate that Roberta.
Oh yeah.
When he got punched and he got ventilated, that was surprise. That was like, dunk. That's it.
Yeah.
He's done. But I loved also when they were in the scene that Garvey got killed in. They're in that what's it called, the brig, and these holes have been punched, and now the biggest issue is how do we seal the hole, and we're in a prison cell.
Yeah,
that was fantastic. That's deep space hard sci-fi that I want. All of that, just more of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the actress that plays Julie Mao, although I liked her more.
Lawrence?
Yep.
Lawrence? Yeah.
I liked more of her. I liked more of less of her. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like the flashbacks and the little bits and pieces of her, but I'm glad that we didn't get a lot of her.
Stand back. Better. Just wait for it. Just wait for it. You know she's coming back, right? You know this.
Well, so
no, you know this. You know this.
Well, okay, but I've seen being sent into
Venus or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, whichever.
Venus or Mercury, one of those two.
I think it was Venus. Venus. So I saw that, and I know I've read enough spoilery shit in the forums looking for something else. I understand that her story and Miller's story is not over, but I'm saying...
You mean Holdren, right?
Hmm?
Her and Holdren's story are not over. No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, Miller.
No, I'm sorry.
Although,
yeah, got it. No, I got it. I was confused. Yep, never mind.
Although there is some interesting thing happening where Holden has started to manifest more of the behavior and thought processes that you would associate with Miller.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested. It seems to me that it's a subtle but deliberate thing. And again, I haven't read the book, so I don't know. But I think that there's something going on there.
But I think Miller's arc through that crew impacted Naomi, James, Amos, and Alex in a way that, kind of a unifying thing and at the same time a maturing thing.
He was so much fun. I was so like, I got it that was the story arc. I understood that he had to be finished, and that was what was beautiful about it.
Well, but we don't know.
We don't
know he's finished.
Well, but it'll never be him sitting around it'll never be him sitting around talking as bluntly as he did about things and his so real reaction to things like the coffee and everything else. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I loved his approach to the way that he did that role.
Yeah.
His tired, honest response to things never felt contrived to me. Like, it always felt very real, and I really like that. The one that I'm having trouble getting into, and I feel like I should more than I am, is Frankie Adams as Roberta Bobby Draper, the Martian Marine that survives the attack on Ganymede.
Oh yeah, that's another example where they cast someone that's not Hollywood typical for anorexic supermodel, and obviously she has a big role to play in the books and everything else. But her insistence on being, sir, yes, sir, we're gonna take it to the Earth. No. Like, I want to see her falling off that path sooner than I'm getting it. But again, I'm 2 or 3 episodes back, so I don't know. But I think it's going to be happening soon. At this point,
she's already started talking. Well, in the last I saw, she was already being interrogated, and they're like trying to condition her story. And she's like saying, "Yeah, but the 7th guy wasn't a guy," and and they're like, "No, just don't say anymore." So that's always the seed that starts the critical thinking, right? When you've been indoctrinated or programmed a certain way, and then they don't treat you consistently with what you imagine, what you were trained to believe that they were supposed to do to you.
Well, and so to me, that whole thing opens up a whole lot of possibilities on who really knew what was going on, what was the conspiracy, how far did they bury it, and why did they bury it? Right. Because if that colonel or major or whatever is trying to doctor her story so she just forgets about Blue Man running around naked without a spacesuit, shooting at Earthers. I mean, what's going on here, right? Like, why was he shooting at Earthers? Why, or he or she? I don't mean to be gender specific on an alien,
right.
But why that whole thing played out, and why the Martians are trying to, craft a story that just makes them look bad intentionally, so they can do a mea culpa and get the heck out of Dodge before anybody finds out what really happened.
All the politics and the complexity of it on this show, I'm just astounded by how well they're doing it. I think it's absolutely fascinating. It's
kind of like they're watching current events.
It's incredible. Incredible.
We have the Belters, which are the EU. We have the Martians, which are the Russians, and the Earthers, which is the US. And there you go.
The way at which they show how much work Shora, what's her name again? Sorry.
The Iranian?
Yeah.
Shore.
Yeah.
I'm probably totally slaughtering her.
We have a thing on Robot-Kraken that we don't prepare and we don't read ahead on how to pronounce people's names, and we read them more than we say them, so we automatically assume we're going to butcher everything. But how much work she puts into appear hawkish but try to save them from themselves at the same time, I think is absolutely fascinating. But she is by no means the virtuous flower, right? I mean, she's pulling the thing that she did with her friend, her father's friend, former mentor, the Mars ambassador. That was so brutal.
Well, but you have people in your life for a reason, right? And if you're that bent, they are to be entertained and to make yourself feel better until you have to cash them in like chips, right?
You're right. And so there's one more cast member that is pretty minor player, but I cannot stress enough how much I am intoxicated by them. Kara G plays drummer, the second in command on Taiko Station. So she's indigenous Canadian, right? So she's an indigenous North American Indian. I think she's amazing. Her accent and her delivery, these weird short little things that she says, and the weird little octave chirp that she has in her delivery. I really like dialect, right?
So what is the deal with her and Anderson?
Well, right? She certainly. I don't know. What do you mean?
There's something. You think I think it's going to be one of those where you think it's sexual, but maybe he's actually her dad or something. Because there's no way that.
Interesting.
I can't reconcile it yet.
I didn't read that yet. That's interesting. I've been reading that she's been installed to keep tabs on what's happening on Taiko Station, but that she is Jared Harris's man, right?
No,
I thought she was a plant by him.
No, I think she is, but there are a lot of conversations about she's just like concubine or an escort, or a working girl gone good or bad depending on your perspective. But
I thought she was sexually connected. I thought she was sexually connected to Dawes and has been planted to do the same thing with.
There's going to be something. There are going to be things coming up where I actually think we're going to find out it's a much different twist.
Well, and I was complaining earlier about there was not enough gender neutrality, and I have to say I totally forgot about the fact that there was that one when Naomi is having station time and she hooks up with drummer, and they have that little weird 80s. The weird 80s dance off, and they're just writhing around having a great time, and I was like, wow, this is really strangely sexual, but it's not, but it is. I like that. That was very, like, it read to me as this is Belter culture, that this is like, you're not male or female, high or low class, you're Belter.
You're a convenient home for the night.
You are. You are somewhat stable biomass.
Yeah.
So
and I just had another epiphany. I had no idea that Jared Harris was Richard Harris's son. I had no idea.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Epiphany is right.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. That's all surfing on the web and like there he is.
I love this guy.
Yeah.
I loved him on Mad Men. I loved him on Fringe.
I loved him on Holmes, Game of Shadows.
Yep. He's in. You're right, Moriarty. Right. He was in Crown. He was in The Crown. He's incredible in The Crown. Did you watch that?
Yeah.
Did you like it or no?
I did.
Yeah. I was astounded that at that time they were removing lungs.
Yeah. Exactly.
Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Read the briefings.
Yeah.
Light my cigarette.
The details.
Right.
Yeah. No. The Crown is really incredible.
So are there any, thinking, instead of cast, thinking about the production and the effects and everything, Was there any effect that you really, really liked, and any effect that you found fell really short of your expectation?
Well, I really like the battle scenes in the vacuum and the horrible nature of ballistic weapons in that environment. It's not like high energy lasers or anything like that. It's a bullet can wreak a lot of havoc as it's going through a high velocity round and tear through. Just like micrometeorites can cause a shit ton of damage,
which we've seen, right?
Yeah,
I think they're doing a great job with how they're showing that they get the ships up close. They have the rocket stuff, and then they get the ships up close, and it's straight up ballistics, right? Just try to pepper the hell out of it until you vent enough of the chambers of the outer hull of the ship that they can't function. That is really cool, and I love how they show it. Like there's multiple little strings of it, right? Yeah, absolutely cool.
The one thing that I didn't like was this kind of hokey, let's carry a nuke on a short fuse. Arrows. I thought that was just such a contrived plot vehicle.
It seems like there'd be multiple fail safes on those things.
Right. I mean,
you would think in this time period that you could beat the shit out of a nuke, and it's not gonna. You can't breach it to malfunction like that.
Yeah.
Right? You could lose communication with it, but I don't see how you would be in a situation like that. But.
Right. And similarly, the thing that I hated when the planetary Earth systems launched against Eros, and like half the missiles just go awry by a subter hack, and then they catch them in a big effing net.
No, but that was really, to me, that was a really good detail, because that seemed really realistic to me.
Except for hijacking the command and control systems for a planetary defense system that corrupts half of.
No, I get that, but the fact that they would use something as old school as a net to capture them, they do that shit today. They do really weird old school hacks to grab things and net things to things. I mean, I think that was a really cool low tech solution to capturing them that I really liked. Instead of, you can imagine some other show, it would be robots going and grabbing them. You know what I mean?
Right. But here's the thing, that if they are in any way aligned to what the arming systems are on warheads today, once they reached a critical velocity, if they have a sudden deceleration event, they would go off.
Right.
And it wouldn't be something that you could hack.
But how cool has been? All right, so you're saying you don't like, so you do like all the ballistic stuff.
Yeah, no, it was just the.
What were your good and your bad? Your good was the ballistic stuff.
Yeah, and the way
that bad was the hijacking of the system.
Well, and they pay so much attention to the integrity of physics and the conservation of mass and energy and the laws of thermodynamics and vacuum dynamics and geoplanetary physics, and then to just have, here's a nuke where I got to put my finger on a button every 10 minutes or it goes off, or I can hack into the CNC systems and arming systems of missiles, but suddenly they're still armable and they're still usable after we capture them. It's just
But how great was you're just not, if you haven't read books or anything, how great is it that you never think that Miller is in peril, and then you're like, wow, wait a minute, there's no way of getting him now.
Yeah,
you're right. That was like great. That was, to me, that was really great, because I didn't see that coming. I thought they were going to come and rescue him, and then when they couldn't, when the thing was okay, so that's all right. Let me go to my good and bad. Okay, so again, so I also like the ballistic stuff. I really like how they're showing, and there are variations on this in various hard sci-fi stories, but I like that they show that hyperspeed or whatever. They don't have hyperspeed, but they have high velocity, and that it's not only not going to play nice with your physiology, and you can't move your arms and your legs and whatever else, but on top of that, it's just going to knock you out and you're just going to die. I love those. I had a lot of trouble with those flashback scenes with the Cochrane of their world, but at the same time, I really enjoyed. I don't know why his head isn't as affected by the G's as his arms, but I really loved the concept of his problem, that he kicked into high gear, he put the turbo on, and he couldn't turn it off because he couldn't reach the shit. That they're still beholden to physical. They had to knock out the guidance controls, so he had to do it manually, and then he couldn't reach it. That was a really great story. He's off in space, right? So I like the vastness.
But I'm waiting to see how that ends.
Right, correct. But
Right.
I like that they're playing with the vastness of space and how you're dealing with things on a large scale. We have that concept in our current culture. We all have this general concept about ICBMs, right? That it's all about, launch them and they're in the sky forever and you're dead, but you have 20, 30, 40 minutes before you actually die because you're just watching the arc on the screen, right? We have that sense. But in this, I really love the fact that they really played up that thing where it's like military engagement, launch the shit. Okay, now let's sit around and watch them. Like they do a good job of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're watching it happen and just kind of waiting. And I love that whole thing about Ganymede where they're like, well, I can't get communication to them in time. Like I can send them messages, but by the time they get it, it will have been too late. It will not make sense based on what their current situation is because there's a 20-minute lag between message response. And I love that. I like that kind of stuff a lot. Okay. I'm a little bit disappointed that we haven't had flechette weapons because that was a big thing in all of my Orbital Cyberpunk campaign stuff, which is you run around with those flechette guns, basically dart guns, on station because if you had any ballistic weapon at all, it dooms everybody. Pop a hole.
Yeah.
What's that?
No, it's the William Gibson preferred armament of the future.
Exactly. And I wanted to see more of that. There's way too many ballistic weapons on the station for my taste. However, I really loved when they strung up Havelock, Miller's partner, right? When the Belter gang strung him up and then they basically nail gunned him to the wall and then stabbed him. I thought that was like the visceral nature. They play up the risk of physical things puncturing things is a prominent theme, and I really like that a lot. I like the physics. I like the implied physics of things more than any other show or movie that I've seen. I love that. But on the other hand, when they choose to defy physics, I don't think that they found yet an effective way to make it make sense. So in and of itself, the whole thing about taking Eros and turning it into a ship and defying all laws of physics and doing so with the protomolecule, that's a god particle stuff that I don't like in my hard sci-fi. Right? I don't like any of that. Right? But they also but even if you were to accept that somehow the shit can do that it is predictive and it's avoiding things and it's causing spontaneous inertial forces and all these things to move the asteroid, they didn't convey it in a way that made enough sense to me when I was watching it. When he's watching the Mormon ship coming at him and then it kind of goes past him and he's like, wait, they missed. No, they didn't. I moved. It was not. I accept that his view, he wouldn't know which of them moved, but I never got the sense that Eros was physically moving in a way that doesn't, in this pseudo physics world, it didn't make any sense. There weren't G-forces on the people on it. There wasn't the sense that this thing is somehow being like picked up by an unseen hand and pulled into a different direction. It was like it just kind of moved.
Well, and it's dark energy, man.
I know, I get it. And they're like, oh, it's infinitely faster than us, and oh, look how it's a dot on the screen, and it's impossible. Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like there was some other way of communicating that would have been more effective than what they did, because it was way too much angels and gods and devils in Battlestar Galactica all of a sudden. You know what I mean?
Well, the Mormon ship was chasing them down, so the divine power went out and intervened.
Again, having not read the books, I was surprised by this, but how fucking great is it that the Mormons are building a super ship to go find a mystery planet where their god is? I thought that was amazing. I thought it was absolutely amazing. And I love that he took hold of it, like everything about that. The whole thing with Miller going and getting the speech, getting the indoctrination speech about the Mormon path, and then basically walking away going, yep, I could use that ship. That was pretty great. Oh, the other thing I don't like is I don't like any of the effects related to the protoculture or the proto molecule.
Yeah, the
weird,
yeah.
Yeah, like it's like a weird sort of crystal growth with spikes, and then it has blue glows. It feels real Star Trek Next Generation when I see it. right?
And when we find out what it is, it'll probably be even more disappointing.
But what I do like is when Miller gets on the ship and he's walking around trying to figure out what's going on, and you see this particulate in the air, right? And it's not just contaminants floating around, but it actually has paths and it's moving around and it's a system. That part I thought was very effective how they did that.
Yeah.
So, and then also I think to some degree the Martian sort of armor suits, that whole thing where and everyone's got the little mag boots and stuff, but how they're like walking around and then they just stand in place and hold their arm up and okay, let's hold this line. Like that didn't feel like any military strategy that made sense to me. Like why didn't they go for cover, or why didn't they take any sort of any position to reduce their exposure to being hit by anything? They just stood there.
Yeah.
Right. So that was a little weird to me. I don't know. I have yet to buy them as Marines at all.
No, when their tactical responses is just form a line and then just
what does a line mean? What does a line mean when you're in an open expanse of, so to speak, of, thousands of kilometers in every direction before you hit a ridge, right? What's a line mean?
Right. Well, and I think they lost an opportunity to emphasize the 3D nature of life in zero G. Right, which they do really good in some circumstances, but in the battle scenes with the soldiers, it's still this 2D topography, kind of old school line up, shoot, die, reload, shoot again.
Well, and they were definitely playing up a North Korea, South Korea kind of thing, right? Like it was like they're standing there expecting that the people on the other side are not going to cross. And
on the 38th parallel, yeah.
Right. And also, though, speaking of the whole 3D thing, those early scenes of Julie Mao, and you don't know why she's locked in the room and all that stuff, that was really effective way to start the show, that she's like trapped and wrote in like the zero G's all over the place and it's spinning, but it's not right. So she's kind of bouncing around a little bit and she's waiting to be rescued. That was really interesting. I like that a lot. But yeah, the planet side Martian stuff didn't feel effective as military stuff at all to me. But I don't know. It almost seemed like they didn't expect. On the one hand, it almost seemed like they were suggesting they didn't expect to actually have to engage. But on the other hand, with all the talk, you would think that they would be more gung ho about it. Like if anything, they would be too aggressive, and they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Although, and the other thing is, I really liked it. I liked on her team that they would that there was all of that razzing the human-born team member that had been on Mars for a while and was a Marine and everything else, and how they were harassing him in a way that's a conventional component of culture that we see today, right? Picking at the outsider and picking at the outsider until someone snaps. I thought that was very interesting, especially given that they had painted this. We saw from the Earther and Belter side this idea that the Martians were very uniform. They're almost Borg-like in their devotion to their training and their military precision. And then you see them in a unit format, and they're actually very divisive.
Yep.
Right. So you are what, 1 or 2 episodes ahead of me, we think?
The only one I haven't seen is the one that just came out over the weekend.
Okay.
So I think I'm 1 episode ahead.
I saw The Seventh Man, and so I guess The Pyre is the one I haven't seen, March 15th. Okay. All right.
And then the one that was March 22nd.
The Weeping Somnambulist.
Yeah.
Ooh, I can't wait. I wish I could see this now. So did you watch Peaky Blinders?
No. Well, we started to, but then I only saw like 3 episodes of it.
And why is that?
Time management.
Okay. But not you didn't. It's not that you didn't like it. You just.
No, I loved it. I'd like to come back and pick it back up.
Not that there's not stalling tactics in that show of them walking in slow-mo through an iron forgery, on their way to beat someone up. They do a lot of that throughout the series. But
and riding the horse. I really like I saw it all the way up to that where he's riding the horse during the Industrial Revolution. It was really an apt metaphor for the entire show. I really
I finished it. I finished what I thought was the end of the series, and then I looked it up and found out that it was ongoing. So I'm really intrigued as to where it goes. But when you get to the end of it, it goes straight Scarface. So it's really interesting to see the arc of this family beyond what the first few episodes that you've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not particularly a spoiler to say that they have enough success to do them harm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and to tear themselves asunder, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's next in cinemas that you're looking forward to? This is sort of an informal look ahead into.
What do you mean besides the beauty that is Logan? Which I still can't get over. I just love that movie. When I think about it. But upcoming films. I mean, obviously, I can't wait for the new Star Wars. The Last Jedi, right?
Right.
I can't wait for Thor Ragnarok. I can't wait for Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Mm-hmm. I'm super into that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the train wreck that will be the Justice League.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun even if it's terrible, right?
Yeah. But those are pretty much my highlights. Oh, Ghost in the Shell. I can't wait.
I cannot even.
Yeah.
I've gone on record now as being optimistic that it's going to be good. So I could be shamed, but I really want it to be good. And if nothing else, the practical effects have impressed me so much. You see the thing where Savage went to the shop and looked at all the animatronics for the geisha bot and all that, and how it's all physical. I love it.
Yep. And then Alien Covenant.
We're physical, Sebastian.
We're physical. And then so Alien Covenant. We'll see what happens. And then of course there's the Mummy with now Tom Cruise taking a turn.
You know, it's interesting that at this point in its early promo that it's indistinguishable from a Mission Impossible movie. But on the other hand, I kind of don't mind that. Like the sort of the period approach to those horror characters is kind of played out to me. And the idea that you would introduce it in a contemporary era and set it in that sort of action adventure environment, I don't know. That's interesting to me. The early images of what's her name as the Mummy, you know, there's a little too much of, well, she's wearing a mummy, you know, a mummy two-piece with some wrappings. You know, it's a little bit too cheeky.
Well, you know, the Egyptians really loved bikinis.
Oh, they sure did.
People don't recognize that, but that was a very, common accoutrement in that period.
Of course. Wait a minute. I just realized something. Go ahead.
And then of course, Spider-Man: Homecoming, War for the Planet of the Apes, and Dunkirk, I think are going to be awesome.
War for the Planet of the Apes is going to be a challenge because I think the first two were interesting because it was the lead up to what is inevitably going to happen. But those prequel kind of stories are interesting because if they can tell you a compelling story when you know the outcome, then it's a good movie, right? Right. And now we're getting straight up into, shit going south. So right. I hope they maintain the equilibrium because I really like the first two.
Yeah.
And I liked how different they were from each other as well.
I do too.
Both of which I've seen on trips to Indonesia. So I don't know. I associate it somehow with that, which is weird.
No, I think I'm very hopeful for it. I think they're doing a really good job with the whole trilogy. So the things that I had the biggest question marks on are like Valerian.
Yeah.
Right.
But he has no editor, so that's always a challenge.
Yeah, it's a lot like.
And the casting choices are so weird. Somehow I liked him as John Connor, even though it was really, really, really weird casting. Him and Claire Danes, I enjoyed that, even though it was weird and wrong. But here, him and Cara Delevingne, whatever her name is, it seems.
You're talking Dane DeHaan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But Rihanna's going to be in it, so it's got to be good.
Hey, listen, that's sort of like that's like Ruby Rod in Fifth Element, right? It's just repatterning everything. Where's the 90210 character?
Exactly. But I think it's going to be one of those. What was the Wachowski brothers' latest movie that was just a travesty? Jupiter. Yeah,
I apparently liked more than you guys, right? I was like, it was interesting, and you guys were terrible.
No, it was 2 hours of my life I'll never get back.
As Charlie Sheen said once, it was a can of smashed assholes.
There you go. And then, of course, you're going to have the debacle that is Transformers: The Last Night.
I refuse to see that. I haven't seen any of them since the first one. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do it. It makes me feel like I'm gonna have one of those psychotic breaks. Yeah, like I'm gonna have some sort of weird problem and stab whoever's nearest me. Stabbing them until all their Tommy's joint juices fly out of their abdomen.
Yeah. But I don't know. What are you looking forward to?
I want to see all those things. I also want to see Free Fire, which is out now, just because it looks like it might be, I don't know, just good old fun. Like doesn't even need to be a thing. Just let it happen kind of movie. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. Like you said, Alien Covenant. I choose to be optimistic, even though.
And I forgot Dark Tower as well, which I should.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. And I haven't read those books either, so I'm coming in cold. You know, it's funny. Dark Tower and American Gods are two series that I have talked to a lot of people, like on the convention circuit. I've talked to fans who are really into those.
You never read American Gods?
No, I didn't.
Wow.
But I see the material now, and I see the adaptation. I see how they're translating what I've heard about of these characters, and it looks really exciting. American Gods looks really good.
Yeah.
To me. And I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse that I haven't read the source material, but I think it's interesting enough in its presentation as TV media that I'm like, wow, that's cool. I'll try that. When it was described initially, I was like, no, I don't think I want to see it. But once I saw what they had done, I was like, okay, all right. So yeah, interesting. Well, we have a lot of stuff to look forward to for the rest of the year, which is good.
Yeah, we have a wealth of riches, but then we still have to deal with the Furious Fast or whatever the heck it is.
So I've seen the first movie only, other than people like fast cars, you and I are of the bullet. We're closer to the bullet generation than this generation, right? So CGI car racing doesn't feel at all as interesting as Bullet and French Connection and To Live and Die in LA, right? That is intense car cinematography, right? Fast and Furious just feels like when I saw that first film, I was like, this feels kind of like I'm watching someone play a video game, right? Well, then I skip ahead and I watch the trailer for the current one, and I was like, what is even happening, man? It doesn't even feel remotely like here's an excuse for a car chase movie. I did like that they have a tank, but no, I don't know.
Give it time.
No, won't do it. I don't think I'm going to see any of those other movies, even if Wonder Woman's in it.
Hey.
Or was in those ones. Hey, on Expanse, there's a thing we do on the show where we pick a red tentacle moment. In other words, it's sort of like what was the little standout thing? What was a standout concept or a standout scene or something that was your favorite? I know that's a broad subject, but on Expanse, what would you give your red tentacle award to? Red tentacle?
Like the best thing ever.
Yeah, so far for you in watching it.
Wow. You're gonna have to give me a minute to come up with that because it's several. I probably have to. I think it'd have to be the moment when the four crewmates come together on the ship and decide to act together to save their ass, as opposed to falling apart. I'd have to say that's probably the defining moment of the show for me, in that they were able to pull that off and come together despite all their differences and being the motley crew that represent all the major disparate elements of the enterprise and the society that's in the Expanse, and still pull it off and make it work. That might have to be it.
I think my favorite moment in the series was Miller in Mao's apartment for like the second time or whatever it was, and he looks out the window and he sees the artificial bird, because all the work that went in, first of all, the symbology of it, but also all the work that they went into showing that it's trying to fly with normal bird rhythm with its wings, but the centrifugal force and the artificial gravity was meaning that it was heavier, like it had that weird sort of things that it would like flap and kind of swing to the side and flap again and swing to the side. The way that they were trying to approximate something from a planet that many of the people there had never seen, but how it couldn't fit the physics of the space station was really fascinating to me. Similar, like we talked about, I think in person, about how I loved how he went to pour the drink in one scene with Harris at the bar. Went to pour the drink and he poured it. He held the hand out to the side so that the arc of the drink poured into the glass, but it was a long sweep of the liquid right to the glass. But I think as far as an overall moment in the series so far that I love the most, and I think it was when they are thinking that they're about to be killed and then discover that the missile, whatever, was going for the Canterbury instead. And it took out the entire ship and all of those people that they were from, and how isolated and freaky that was. I mean, granted, the one Belter kid got isolated from his uncle and he's out in space and you think he's dead until they find him. That was a scary thing. But that moment for them, when it went right over their heads and took out their ship, took out their sort of mothership, I thought that was really unexpected and scary and intense moment for them. And it really hammered home the idea that if you don't have your support structure in deep space, you're screwed. I really like that. So I think that was my red tentacle moment.
Okay.
All right. So do you have one more segment maybe we talk about very briefly? And that is what we call the red tentacle recommendation. Since we have you on as a guest, I want to know, is there a book or a show or a movie you've seen or something that you want to recommend that you really dug?
Just recently or at any point in life?
I don't care.
Well,
my contemporary, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's fine. I would have to come back to 70s. I think that's the best book I've read in probably the last 3 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think it's his best?
No, not by a long stretch. I'll always be a Snow Crash fan or a Zodiac fan of Stevenson's. I know you're probably going with something else later on in his chronology, but Snow Crash is still.
Well, what do you think? What do you think I think is his best book?
Cryptonomicon.
Yeah, you're right. Amy Shafto for the win, dude. Diving for gold in the Philippines. How could you beat that?
I know, but the cliche San Francisco Victorian house and a bitchy wife and
I don't know anything about those things.
Escaping and going off to Hawaii with some sun bunny. There you go. I get that.
But that was his first. That was his first taste of the multi-time period storytelling, right?
I agreed, but and
I like that a lot.
And if I was going to go for a Shafto, I'd go for Bobby.
Yeah.
When he's at the end of days and he goes through the roof hole with the grenades and just blows himself up. That's probably my favorite Shafto moment. But Snow Crash is still, because it was my first introduction to him, and it's still my favorite Neil Stephenson book.
All right. Okay. So now wait a minute. Snow Crash, I need to give another chance. For some reason, when I read it the first time, I didn't find it as remarkable as you talk about it. So I know I need to give it another look.
But I mean, in your arc, you were probably really influenced by the Gibsonian perspective of things, and you could really, view Snow Crash, if you're a real cynic, as kind of a derivative moment and output based on, CJ's work, Bill Gibson, that whole genre.
Well, and by the same token, even though it's totally unfair, I felt like Sterling was very derivative.
Oh, of course.
And then, if you think about it, no,
even though Sterling wrote a book with him, right? Yeah.
Right, but also the only difference between Sterling and Gibson is that Sterling played with the system and Gibson didn't. Right? Gibson refused to acknowledge the genre that he was in, and Sterling was like, "I'll take it." Right?
I'll call it for what I see it is that Sterling will never be as good as Gibson.
No, I agree. Right. But once I was late to it, like years after I was into Gibson and Walter John Williams and a few others, I finally broke down and read Sterling on his own, and I was like, "Oh, the Transmatrix kid, was that the one?"
Yeah.
One of those. Yeah, I started reading one, and I was like, okay. And one thing that he had that I found interesting that Gibson didn't play with much was the biomechanics. The idea that there would be, that whole other dimension of pre-engineered mutations and stuff. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So,
well,
and it's better than I thought.
And that's one thing I like about Stevenson Snow Crash is that the kind of abiotic-biotic interface, and people killing themselves because they're seeing flash advertising on their cranial circuit because they went into a dirty porn site and got hacked, got infected with the virus. But I mean, anytime you get avatars and then Alaskan assassins with glass blades running around.
All right, I gotta read
that. Sorry, it hits all my buttons.
Yeah, I'll take it. So I'm just astounded that we never role played together. Honestly, we have to rectify that because when I think about those campaigns I was running in this sort of environment.
Well, you tried. You invited me to several events. I just never was able to make it over.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, the whole thing was that I pulled, after a lifetime of playing with other gamers, my whole deal was that I pulled non-gamers into this environment that were intelligent people with imaginations who liked sci-fi stuff, but they had never played role-playing games before. And it made for a really, really interesting gaming experience. It was really fun, especially since my judging style is sort of free roam, right? I set up the scenario and I let them do what they want to do. But yeah, you would have had a field day with it, and we got to do that again. We got to figure that out because I think you would have a great time. Glass blades and all. So I have a challenge for you, a spontaneous challenge based on your recommendation. Thinking of Cryptonomicon and thinking of your favorite Shafto Bobby
moment.
I want you to do a fantasy casting in a Cryptonomicon movie. Who would play Bobby Shafto for you?
Oh my gosh! Really?
Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert! I already have an answer, but go ahead.
You already have an answer?
Yep.
And we're talking the World War II Bobby, right?
I'm talking when we last see Bobby, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking Philippines hunting for gold. Oh no! I've seen World War II Bobby. Yes, right.
Yeah, World War II Bobby, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then
How old do you think he is at that point?
Mid-20s. Right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Right? Maybe even late 20s.
Yeah.
And oh my God.
What are the affectations you think of when you think of Bobby?
Idiosyncratic, introverted, insecure, and acts out in every way that you could never want. Hyper intelligent. I'm going through this list here real quick, and you're gonna love.
What list did you find? Possible Bobby Shaft? Don't look up Bobby Shaft.
No.
Casting on.
No. That's not gonna work. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Huh.
Right. And I think, and here's my wild card. I'm going to go with Shia LaBeouf.
Well, that's interesting. I don't hate him the way people hate him. I actually find him very watchable.
Yeah.
I just don't watch him in his real life.
No, I don't either. Yeah, but
all right,
those are the ones that I would go for.
I will give you two. The more slightly more traditional or sort of on models choice I would have, honestly, while we were talking about this, it sort of connected for me. Stephen Strait.
Yeah.
Right? If you imagine his head shaved and he's pushed to the brink, knife in his mouth, right?
Yeah.
Diving in the hole.
Well, and seeing his, the love of his life, infected with leprosy and shunned off. I mean, he had a spiritual total collapse and a mental collapse as a result for it, right? I mean, he was totally broken, just totally broken.
But my wild card is Crispin Glover.
Wow, but he's way too old, don't you think?
Well, but when we fantasy cast, we can jump from time period. Who cares, right? Time is not time is not important. When I cast on the old forum, Batman Year One, I cast Joan Chen as Catwoman, and it was 25-year-old Joan Chen. Let me tell you. but yeah.
At least you didn't go Radcliffe on me. I was afraid you were going to go Radcliffe on me.
Radcliffe. Oh no.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter? No. But okay, so then what about Amy Shafto, who I may or may not have a keen interest in?
Kristen Bell. No.
Well, but she's more. She was described as being,
Eurasian.
at least half. Yeah, right. Eurasian, half Asian, half
Yeah.
Asian.
Well, I mean, I would go Lucy Liu if we were going to go. That can exist at any point in time, right?
Right.
Right.
It's an interesting problem, right?
But if you can go Crispin Glover, I don't see why I can't.
Ray Don Chong does not count.
I was going through the names and the cast members of The Expanse because they're kind of all half breeds in a way.
Which I love.
And I mean that in a positive way, right?
Mm-hmm. Mulatto is the future, right?
Yeah, well, unless the Republicans get their way. So let's see.
Billy Zane.
Billy Zane. No thanks. How about Isabella Long? Leon.
Isabella.
Leon.
Here, I'm gonna summon Indaba because I can't figure out what you're talking about. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. What is she?
I saw her in 12 Golden Ducks in The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. I remember her from The Mummy, right?
Okay, so I'll take that. Portuguese Macau, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit. Good call. So based on my first 3 or 4 readings of that,
but let's be clear. Lucy Liu would still be my first choice if time was not
sure.
Right.
Sure, with freckles, I get it. That's also my first choice for many things. So
Michelle Yeoh would be my other.
Okay.
Right.
My first 3 or 4 readings of that book, she definitely fell onto the Asian side of the mix, right? And so based on what we've seen recently, I was going to say Jessica Hendricks from Iron Fist. She is really, really captivating as a Asian American with she Asian American or Asian Canadian? I don't even know, but has a mix of things going on. Really, really watchable and interesting. So I can totally see, and particularly because I associate Shafto with this very sort of pragmatic, like the diving bikini with the belt, the webbing harness and all that stuff, and the knife and all that. I can totally see that.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking more about Bobby Shafto, thinking more about the mix, also, what about Olivia Wilde?
Yeah, that works, right?
I really don't know the ethnic breakdown of her ancestry, but she has a really strong physiological look that she looks like she's halfway between both to me. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And her face, very exotic face. I like that. So
yeah, and she's married to Jason Sudeikis, which
there's hope for us all.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need hope anymore, but I mean, in theory, there's hope for us.
Yeah.
He told her a joke.
But her parents are completely. Let's see, Andrew and Leslie Cockburn.
Say what now?
She was born in the mom of Olivia Wilde. The mom was born in San Mateo, California.
Not expected. And her father?
And her father was Andrew Cockburn.
What's her ethnic background?
And he's an ornithologist.
That's
so no wonder she married Sudeikis. Okay.
There's hope for you. So wait a minute.
And he grew up in Ireland. He's Irish. County Cork, actually.
So what's her mix? It's Irish and what?
Irish American.
She has such unusual features for that.
Yeah, I know.
Her eyes and her facial structure and everything, her jawbone, everything.
Yeah.
So while we were talking, I did a deep dive into Isabella Leong's pedigree.
Mm-hmm.
What an interesting looking person.
Yeah. I just remember her from The Mummy. She was like the only thing that stuck out.
Yeah, so to speak.
Yeah.
Got it.
But
well, dude, this has been super cool. I have a feeling, I may be wrong, I have a feeling we're going to have you on here again because, tell you what, here's the thing. So I told you that Kris, he watches a movie and then he gets stuck on then he's got the next thing that comes in and then he can't remember the details of the previous one, which I totally understand. He's fully at capacity. He's got so much going on. Where I sort of nerd out on stuff that I saw 6 months ago, a year ago, and I remember elements of it that bothered me or didn't bother me. I have a feeling that you and I might end up talking on this podcast in the future about some of the projects that maybe we've seen that are not as current. And revisit.
I'm plagued with a really good memory for things long ago. I'm not so good on the short-term stuff, but long-term stuff I'm holding on.
Do you know where your child is right now?
Yeah, we have.
Do you know where she was?
Yeah, we have the different RAM-ROM issue. We have different aspects of it.
That's right. But so I definitely think that would be a fun thing to do. Is we could retread on some earlier films that we've watched that we've enjoyed because. The funny thing about Kris and I is that we keep a laundry list of stuff to talk about. We have this bullet point list of subjects for podcasting sessions. It's like 30, 30 or 40 long, right? And I'm constantly, and every time I go and watch a movie or I rewatch a movie, I take my little notes about the things that I was interested in or whatever. And then I go to, and it used to drive him nuts because we go to talk about, even if it was a movie we just saw, I'd have this like bullet point list of all the stuff I want to talk about. And he was just like, well, I remember I liked it because we have a different approach for how we captured that image, that info. And I know that my brain is a sieve, so I write it down. He's in denial that his brain's a sieve, so he's kind of running with it. So there are a lot of movies that I've seen in the last few years, as well as obviously before that, where he in order for us to talk about it, he was like, well, I need to rewatch that. But I have a feeling, and I talked to him a little bit about this. I have a feeling we'll do a thing where maybe you and I will do a segment where you and I are talking about a movie that hasn't happened in the it's not a new movie, but it's something that we have seen in the recent past or in the semi-recent past, and we can revisit it. So I think that'd be super cool.
Very great.
That assumes that everybody doesn't come and tweet to us that they thought you were horrible on this podcast.
Well,
which could happen.
That happens all the time. Don't worry.
I know. All right, man. Well, cool. Thanks for joining us for your debut on. Is this your first podcast?
It's my first podcast ever.
What do you think about the fact that you're doing radio like the old days, but it's delayed like now?
I'm pretty excited about it.
I thought you might be.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
No, it's like being the old timey show.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Who would have thought a couple years ago that we'd be sitting around doing, recording radio shows in the midnight hour where our kids are slumbering.
Well, the only thing that's missing is we're not broadcasting live on a ham radio set. That would be the only other element that could be, way over the top.
Did you know, I may have told you this, but did you know that Carl and I were once gunning for a radio show?
Really?
Did I tell you that? Back at Cal Poly, we concocted, this is the root of basically this half of my life. So he and I bullshitting about movies all the time. We're like, man, we should have a radio show. We should talk about movies. And we're like, well, what do we do? And so we contacted the local radio station in San Luis Obispo and said, hey, we want to do a radio show, a live radio show, and talk about movies and stupid stuff. And they're like, okay, we'll give you Sunday from 3 to 5 a.m. So we're like, thank you for playing. Yeah. That was the end of it.
Yeah.
The
dead zone.
Yeah, right. And the reality is that would have been actually a super great opportunity. And if we had done it, it would have been a great thing. But at the time, we couldn't conceive of it. We're like,
you would have been completely unfettered. You could have done whatever you wanted.
Oh my God, can you imagine? But so like a few years later, I built the Monkey versus Robot or Monkey plus Robot Reviews blog. and we started reviewing movies that we saw, and he reviewed like 2 and then fell off of it, and I kept going with the Ghost of Monkey.
The Ghost of Monkey Pass.
I still have all the art and stuff that I did for that old timey blog with a little monkey and the robot fighting each other and everything, and that led to that aspect of the R3 forum and talking about multimedia projects on there as well as art and stuff, and that led to this today.
There you go.
So, had we only done that show, he and I we'd have a hit show on Breitbart right now.
Yeah,
right?
and I'd be eating a bullet.
It would be like a time travel thing. You're like, I know what he could have become.
What? Well, the Nazis were right.
Hey, speaking of that, have you watched Man in the High Castle yet?
No, and it's on the top of my to-do list, especially now after November 8th.
Hey, talking about to-do lists, do you actually write one down, or do you just have it in your mind? And
I do not write anything down. Plausible deniability is key.
Okay, so I rely heavily on Evernote and Wunderlist for keeping track of stuff because I can't remember anything. So Evernote,
I use Evernote, but and Microsoft OneNote, but it's all for work and electronic lab notebooks. I don't do it for personal stuff. Maybe I should.
That's unacceptable. I use Evernote for everything. But I've been increasingly revealed. But I've increasingly been using Wunderlist for making lists because it works well and you can share into other people and stuff. But I have a shows and films to watch list, and I have on here, among other things, I have Humans on AMC. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm. Yes. You
have? Good.
Well, 2 episodes of it. I think Carrie Ann was really into that show. Yeah.
Robots in peril.
Robots with blue eyes.
Mm-hmm. I have The Night Manager here.
Mm-hmm.
I have Z on Amazon. I don't know about that one. That one I think my wife would like. That's ragtime. Christina Ricci playing a ragtime.
Yeah. And normally I'm a big fan of everything Christina Ricci does for all the obvious reasons, but yeah.
And I like old timey, so
yeah.
How about Travelers on Netflix? Have you seen that?
No, I have not.
That's time travel. That's a team, like a spunky team that's traveling through time to change history for the better, but they make it worse. And that's Timothy. What's his name?
Oliphant?
From from.
So I got. Wait. Just wait. I got to make a retraction. If it could be anybody for Bobby Shafto, Timothy Oliphant would be the guy.
Yeah, I like that. So
sorry, I got to go back and recast. Sorry.
All right. So diverging from Travelers, did you see Santa Clarita already?
No.
No.
Nope.
You haven't seen Santa Clarita?
Nope.
It's on Netflix?
Nope.
Do you know about it?
Nope.
Okay. You have to go watch this. You have to do it immediately. You have some free time. You got to do this.
Yeah.
It's what?
Between now and dawn, I'll go watch it.
Yeah. No. Listen, it's Drew Barrymore and Timothy Oliphant, and they are real estate agents in Santa Clarita, California.
What?
Suburban life.
How have I
super surreal?
This?
And she discovers she's undead. Total black comedy, random as shit. She just suddenly wants.
So wait. It's Santa Clarita Diet is what it's
correct.
called.
Yes.
Okay.
Gotta watch it. You gotta watch it because you've never seen Timothy Oliphant doing anything like this. He's playing like a stone surfer dude, but not the Brad Pitt, don't condescend in me, man, kind of way. It's like he's trying to be positive. Everything's gonna be good. Everything's gonna be A-okay. And it's so random. And he's in capris and flip flops. It's just so weird.
But so you don't know everything about Timothy Oliphant because he's played that character in the past.
When? Where?
Hold on. I'm gonna get it for you.
I refuse to believe it.
No. There's a couple where he plays The League. He played that in that TV show.
I haven't seen The League because it's fantasy football, and fuck that.
No, it's actually really good. It's a really good play on the whole thing. My Name is Earl. Played one in there.
No. I don't remember him on that at all.
Yeah.
No.
And hold on.
It takes
Gotta
two
go
to
back
make
to
a
99. To 99. There's one where he's just a total douchebag.
Well, anyway, I liked it because to me, Timothy Olyphant is nothing but 100% Deadwood. So this is great.
Well, I mean, you're totally biased then, right? Because you're typecasting him. That's not fair. Sex and the City. He was Sam. He was a total stoner loser dude in Sex and the City.
I refuse to acknowledge that. So going back to my list, Travelers on Netflix. It's Timothy. Is it Timothy Hutton? Is that right? He was on the show with the con artists, right?
Yeah.
That's right, Timothy Hutton. So he's the one leading this random group that looks like a CW show, right? Like these random group of time traveling dudes that are or people that are going to fix things, and then apparently they make it worse. So I can't wait to watch that.
Well, that's of course what it does, right?
Yeah. Well, and then but they acknowledge that it makes it worse. So what about Orphan Black? Have you watched that?
First season.
Did you like it?
I did. But again, I just
too much of Tatiana or whatever her name is.
You can never get enough Tatiana. I think that's the rule of the day. But I only have.
She's the one that Haverford let get away on Parks and Rec, by the way.
Yeah, but sometimes you just gotta let something fly away and become more beautiful than when you had it.
I'll say.
It's just
there's dark matter on my list.
Right. There's the ultimate prioritization of things, and I just look. I can't even keep up with the 3 shows I want to watch, let alone take 10 on. What
about Ray Donovan?
Watched the first half of the first season, liked it. I'm a big fan of Lee Schreiber.
Yep.
He's also a fantastic director. And I just, yeah, it'd be one of those if I had nothing to do other than, right.
So the one thing I really like is that Netflix have turned on this offline viewing mode. So right before I was supposed to go to Indonesia this last trip, I loaded up all of Peaky Blinders that I hadn't seen and put it on the iPad, ready to go, and then ended up delaying the trip, so I watched it on the main TV. But I like that I could load up my iPad with some show from Netflix and then queue it up for the plane and watch it on the plane. That's how I got into House of Cards. I watched House of Cards on the plane, and the whole first season just freebased it on the way to Switzerland, and I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's just
I still think of House of Cards all the time. I think of House of Cards in our current climate.
Yep. I whenever I get on a plane, I always go back, and if they have Marvel movies, I just rewatch whatever they got.
I understand.
Yeah. Everything is illuminated. If you haven't seen that movie by Lee Schreiber, the director of it, with Elijah Wood, that is a phenomenal movie. You should watch it.
I need to put that here. Hold on. Think about
Get your list.
Get your list. Write it down.
Get your list.
Everything. That's a movie I had before I lost all my movies. Everything is
illuminated.
Yeah. I remember, oddly enough, I don't know why it is. Maybe it's because it's so rare that I'm watching a movie outside of the environment of my wife's asleep and I'm watching on the couch kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I remember every movie I've seen on a flight to and from Jakarta. I don't know why that is. Like Equalizer. Like I've not seen that on a big screen, but I've seen that on an airplane, and I liked it just fine. And there are a lot of movies that I've seen, on a flight and said, okay, earmarked for watching it again later, big. Like Edge of Tomorrow, or as I call it, All You Need Is Kill, or All You Need Is Tole. I need to see that on my big TV because I only saw it in fact, I even saw it on the plane's, the screen on the back of the seat, right? So I really need to see. But also I saw World War Z in my little transit hotel in Singapore. Right? I watched that super late at night, like 12 to 2 a.m. watching World War Z, and then turned off the laptop, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, just kind of go to sleep right now. I'm like, shit.
Well, don't worry, the World War Z 2 is coming out, so you'll have another opportunity to experience that on the big screen.
Yeah, but I think they're going to change the format, right? Like I have a feeling they'll probably go towards where the book did, and that they didn't do the first time around with all the narratives. So
I don't know. It was a complete departure for the first movie, so I don't know.
Did you read the book?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I loved it.
Did you like the movie version better or the books?
Well, as in all things, I pretty much go with the book because that's my imagination, not somebody else's. Yeah, absolutely.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. That's an example. That movie is an example of where they set up, like the character structure of what the movie is going to be like, and then they surprise you. Like when they had the scientists stumble down the plank of the back of that Hercules aircraft and then trip and shoot himself in the head. I was like, what the fuck just happened, man?
Yeah,
I was really surprised by that. It was very successful.
Well, I liked it because it created a different kind of zombie. It was like
fast.
The 28 Days Later or the I Am Legend post-apocalyptic version of us.
I haven't seen either of those.
You didn't see I Am Legend?
No. Was it good? I thought it was bad.
Dude, no, it's like the top 3 Will Smith movie, right? Hancock, I Am Legend, I forget the first
Wild West.
And the first MIB.
I cannot believe that you include that in your top. I can't believe you included Hancock. I have to say, the first 2/3 of Hancock I really, really liked. I've always wanted the superhero with consequences, and I really liked that part of it. In the last third, it kind of went off the rails, but yeah.
Well, it just, it's a typical Will Smith project.
But I mean, who came up with the construct that Jason Bateman was going to like take in the drunken superhero and be like, "This is not realistic. You can't do this stuff. What you're doing."
I just where else are you going to get Bateman, Theron, and Smith in a movie and pull it off? I just love the beautiful madness of it all.
Add that to the list of upcoming movies I want to see. It's Theron's new John Wick. Not John Wick, but by the creators of John Wick, so it's basically John Wick. Atomic Blonde, something.
No, it's John Dickless.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That was rude, but it's gonna be amazing. that looks like it's gonna be. That's gonna be what Salt could have been, right?
Yeah.
If Salt was actually written as a female.
But so I'm gonna have to come to the Liev Schreiber's defense. I mean, Salt, for what it was okay.
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah,
and also Salt gets major points for the gender flip and the casting, and then making it work anyway. So that was good.
And the ornithologist again. The much abused, much taken for granted supposed spy ornithologist.
Things have to have gone right to generate an Olivia Wilde. So there's something about the ornithologist lifestyle we just don't know. There's probably a convention for ornithologists that goes crazy at night.
Well, it's only,
Long Island's for everybody. It's crazy.
Yeah,
no belts or anything, right?
No, you don't get. There's no Nobel for ornithology. No.
Cool, man. All right. Well, I guess I'll watch these shows. I have a few others on here, but *Halt and Catch Fire*. Did you see that?
Yes. Good. Very good. Very good. It's got Lee Pace. Seriously? So Lee Pace is one of my underappreciated actors out there, and he's just fantastic. And the female lead, I'm blanking on her name. The first season is really good, and then there's kind of a lull in it, of course, but then it really redeems itself on kind of the second incarnation, just like all these tech startups do, and the same cast of characters come up. It's Mackenzie Davis. That's the one I'm thinking of. Okay. Yeah, she's fantastic.
Did you watch Pushing Daisies?
Oh yeah, of course.
I never saw any of them.
Soup to nuts on that. The aesthetic and the cinematography.
That's him, right?
And the set design, is just incredible.
That's what's his name that's doing Legion, right? All right.
The director.
Yeah. Or the creator, isn't that the one who did Legion?
Brian Fuller. Yep.
Yeah. So
and then he went out from Pushing Davies to he did do Pushing Davies, right?
Yeah.
Pushing Daisies. Pushing Davies is a sugar DVD search again.
No, that's a different
Pushing
thing. That's
Daisies.
That's like pushing, politicians around. Sure.
Yes. So he did Pushing Daisies and he did Fargo, and now he's doing Legion.
Yeah.
So Lee Pace.
And how good is Fargo? Right? I mean, holy crap!
I haven't seen it. I banned it because I was outraged. I was outraged by it, and then I read a thing where the Coens were like, "Yeah, you should watch it." Fuck it. And I was like, "Oh, all right, I'll put it on the list," but I haven't seen it yet. I've seen promos for season 3, and I've seen Ewan McGregor and what they've done to him, but I haven't watched the show at all. So I should just go right on and do that next, right?
Yes.
It's like two down on my little queue, but you want to bump it up?
I mean, still to this day, my favorite Fuller thing is Hannibal on NBC.
Oh,
That was
how on earth did they cancel that show?
Because it was just too much. It was just too much.
Does he eat Gillian Anderson on that or no?
No, well, not that character. No, doesn't eat her. No.
Okay, all right. So, Lee Pace, did you feel like he filled out Ronan in Guardians of the Galaxy? Because I feel like he's a thin guy, and I always felt like he was too thin in Ronan.
No, well, but he bulked up for it too, right? I mean, he put on a lot of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even his face, everything about him seemed too thin for Ronan to me.
Yeah, see, I didn't really have a good idea of wow, and Fuller is actually from Lewiston, Idaho. Huh.
No.
Yeah. Probably why Kris likes him so much. The
Idahoans.
No, I don't think he was too skinny. I just think his demise was completely broadcast for the first time he took up. The thing with Marvel is that they don't have villains that come back; they always kill them, right?
Yeah.
A much longer arc in the comic books, but
well, he wasn't a villain. I mean, he is, but he's a henchman. He's a mini boss.
Right. He's not Thanos, right?
Right.
And so
Thanos. Let's not put too fine a point on it. Thanos once had a Thanos copter, right? I mean, like Thanos has had a wide range of things happening to him. So,
yes.
But of course, the fact that they found Brolin for him was such great casting, right?
Yeah. And but
I want my villains to be complex.
I pretty much like Lee Pace in everything he does. Right, and I think his role on Guardians of the Galaxy was defined by the script and not by anything else, and so it was always just kind of the psychotic holy warrior scree element that I think gave it short shrift rather than his physical persona in the role.
His Kree thing,
yeah.
You mean?
Yeah.
Well, so here's my take on it. My sense was that he's a dynamic actor, would be really interesting as someone who's frustrated.
So you should see him in Home Catch Fire. You should see him in Home Catch Fire.
Well, I will. I had that and Silicon Valley on my list, and I watched Silicon Valley first, which I loved, and I never got to Halt and Catch Fire. But I wanted him to be playing, if he was going to play the villain or the antagonist, I wanted him to play a guy who's frustrated and growing increasingly more frustrated. And that would have fit in Guardians of the Galaxy. It just doesn't fit with Ronan. Like, I can see him playing a character, an antagonist, who's frustrated that these people just keep meddling and keep causing problems. Like, I think that would have been a really interesting use of this guy. I felt like he wasn't used in Ronan the way. I guess that's what I'm getting at. He just feels like he was underutilized in that role.
No, he was a pinup villain that represented Armageddon, and that was
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Right. I want villains to be complex, and that's one of the reasons why Loki was successful, particularly like in the sphere of things, like where he traps Thor in the Hulk cage and then dumps it. Those kinds of moments for Loki where he's being crafty were very exciting. I like when a villain is very creatively crafty, or when a villain that's thought ahead. I don't like villains that are like plodding along with their plan and don't get in their way, which is unfortunately what you usually get.
Well, but you got to recognize in Guardians of the Galaxy that plot vehicle was represented by Zoe Saldana, right? I mean, that was the character that was caught in the grist and had that juxtaposition of good and evil, and then went another way. I mean, so that transition moment and that complexity was represented in that character, not in Ronan.
It's interesting that Karen Gillan or Gillan, whatever it is, her Nebula is reluctantly joining the team on the second film. I get that they're siblings and whatever else, but it's odd. It'll be an interesting tension. I hope that they play that up. That it's not.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we don't know what the role of Thanos is in this, and if anything. And I actually didn't know that, so thank you for spoiling that for me. But
It's in all the promos.
no,
She's there. She's in the promos.
but I don't think she's like chummy tummy.
They show that her in the team in the group shots. They show that they brought in Yondu and they brought her in.
Yeah, but she could be the one that doesn't want to be there. She's only there begrudgingly and is going to turn.
I think that's what it is. And she's in handcuffs half the time. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and just like Yondu, right? Like he's going to eat them or
Michael
celebrate.
Rooker. Is it Rooker?
Rooker.
Oh, he is amazing in that role.
Yeah,
absolutely love him.
Yeah,
we're going to see that movie. You and I.
Yes,
probably.
we are. Yeah.
All right. That was the end to the end. Well, that was fun having you on. I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out and doing that. And I hope to have you on soon.
We will do it again soon.
Go take your bourbon bottle and tuck it into your pillow and cradle it and get 3 hours of sleep for your daughter.
The weeping. I'll be one with the Expanse and the weeping somnambulist.
Yes, perfect. Okay. Oh, I need to watch it and then I'll understand it fully. All right, cool. Yeah. Thanks a lot. That's great.
Have a good night.
And that was our May episode. We had planned on recording a few other things, but I am on the road a lot this month. As always, you can go to robot-kraken.com to keep up with all the nerd news and standard awesomeness that we typically have on the website. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram. Tom's username is @TRDL, and you can find me @DeeplyDapper. You can also just look up Robot-Kraken. We also have a Robot-Kraken Instagram, Robot-Kraken's Red Tentacle, that you can look up on there. As always, you can also stream and download the episodes at deeplydapper.com. Apologize if I seem a little scatterbrained in this closing here. Things have been crazy this month. We hope you enjoyed this month's episode. Next month should be pretty interesting. We have some tentative guests on to review different movies with Tom while I'm on the road. And hopefully Tom and I can get together and discuss some new trailers, new gadgets, new art techniques, and more. Thank you for listening to Robot-Kraken. It's time to put the Kraken back in its cage.
Freaky sucks.
Yeah. Freaky Friday was the best movie ever, or something.
Goodbye.